Welcome everybody to what the fuck? You just start laughing.
I just imagine you just taking a very deep breath, going just with the hand motion too. The hand motion too.
Please let us just keep this bit in.
Yeah, just start
The
with
failed
this.
start.
It's fine.
I want this failed start in so badly.
Well, put it in.
Well, that basically shows you that this is the first attempt at ever doing a podcast. Okay, so after that failed start, welcome to the first ever podcast kind of made by the Science Fiction, Fantasy and Anime Society of Nottingham University. I'm your host, Alastair Davis, and with me I have...
With some confidence, I enjoy that. I'm Lewis Johnson. I'm the ex-anime rep. I now have no will to live.
Hey, I'm Fallon Smith. I'm the new anime rep. I'm not reaching that point. Not yet.
It's your boy, Ben, ex-prez and ex-anime rep, and I'm not even sure if I'm still alive.
You fucking sounded me, Jesus. Put a bit of fucking injection into your voice.
You guys
I'm sorry, I lost all
inspiring confidence
enthusiasm.
for next year.
You lost all enthusiasm
when my
after I
apprentice
left the
joke
room.
fell flat, I just lost all enthusiasm.
Oh.
Oh no, memes.
Well, at this point I probably should have mentioned that I'm the new president of the society, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, doesn't matter.
No, this
Doesn't
is a
matter.
random stranger.
Podcast host is just superior to president, so, you know.
I'll be sure to tell that to fucking China. Like fucking.
I know. Wait.
What's that got to do with anything?
That's my fucking Donald Trump reference for the fucking day.
Oh, I thought you.
The El Presidente, as it were.
I thought you were going into a Chinese cartoons reference there, Lewis.
Well, to be fair, yeah, that's actually a decent segue. Speaking of China.
Well, contrary to what you've heard so far in this podcast, this is supposed to be an anime podcast, not a politics podcast, but whatever.
I don't think me saying the word China once is politics.
China.
You mentioned Donald Trump. That's politics.
He was
He
in
Inferno
an
Cop.
anime.
He was in Inferno Cop, so we're
Yeah.
fine.
What?
Yeah,
He was in Inferno Cop.
He's also on the TV at one point in.
Yeah, why do
In
I
anime
also
as
remember
well.
what you're talking about?
Yeah, I can't remember what anime it was though.
Home Alone, that's the one.
No idea.
Yes, Home Alone, the infamous
Really?
anime.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, what is in Home Alone?
Did he have a guest appearance in Cory in the House? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh.
Yes, the ultimate anime. Anyway, now that we're done talking about Cory in the House.
Actually, moving on to actual anime, since this is
Right.
the first podcast, we decided that this would be probably best to kind of introduce to everybody's tastes of what everybody likes to watch. So the best way to do that is to discuss everybody's top 5 anime, which I didn't realise how difficult that question was going to be until I actually posed it.
Man, you guys need to get your fucking act together. I got a list.
I've got my
Yeah,
list
I got a
sorted.
list. It's just I spent fucking 2 hours this morning changing it from the one I gave last night.
Well, that makes all my preparation notes useless, Ben.
It's fine. I've got there's only one that I dropped, and just a whole order that I changed, and.
Okay.
A big order. Ooh.
Oh!
Yeah, please tell me nobody has Big Order on their list.
Out there, someone's favourite anime is Big Order, and I'm so happy for them, but at the same time...
No.
Oh god, I can't believe I actually finished that thing.
Neither can I, if I'm being honest. Like, I expect better of you. And you bought a fucking Mia body pillow. I mean, come on, man. Like, fucking,
Yes,
like,
tell
that's
the entire... This is going on the internet. Thank you very much. Tell the
Are you
entire
not
internet.
proud of that? That is the greatest pedigree in anime.
That's gonna be the awkward cut. So if you're just returning now, that's because the president didn't want you to hear the top secrets we just revealed.
Yeah, I was meant to say, there's fucking A tier about how long is it? Is about 5 meter long secret.
It's actually 7.
Oh,
It's actually 7. Fucking hell! I thought I was being pretty fucking liberal with the 5 meters.
Well, because it's got 5 inner pillows, which are both 1.5 meters, which are all 1.5 meters long. So...
My favourite anime is Monster Musume.
No, surprising enough, it's not on my list.
Nah, Monster Mystery is just a guilty pleasure for me.
I have a long list of those.
I think those are just your favourite anime, fella. Should we start with you, in which case?
Should we start with me?
How are we doing this? Are we like going
should
through
we just
everyone's
go with-
5, then everyone's 4, or are we
Yeah,
just
just
going
go-
through everyone's
I like that rotation method. I like
Yeah,
it.
let's
Yeah.
just do with everybody's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blah.
Are we doing honourable mentions before number 1 as well? Like
No,
No.
Sundown Ben.
Oh, honourable mentions!
You've got like 12.
Yeah, I know I do. That's why I need honourable mentions.
No, fuck off. We're gonna be on podcasts in the future. We can make that a regular segment where Ben talks about his top 19 anime as they change on a bi-monthly basis.
A whole separate podcast for special mention.
No, we'll just have
fucking-
the solo Ben podcast that lasts for 5 hours while he
It's
talks
literally
about.
just me sat here eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream and talking about my
Yeah.
anime, and all
That's-
the way through the podcast, I am changing the order and anime I'm actually listing.
I was about to say, so I'll just have the Special Mentions Ben podcast or the Specimen Ben podcast.
Oh, sound like a Chinese meal.
Oh my god. Do you want to start, Alastair?
Yeah, let's just start. Okay, I'll start with my number 5, which I know
Yeah.
is already going to be a fun start because Lewis is going to
Oh.
have a field day with this one. My Hero Academia.
Oh no, Boku no meme time.
I don't know. Should we give like short descriptions of the shows?
Yeah, oh no, I mean, like, give a short description if
Yeah.
needed, and then explain what you like about it.
Okay, so the show is about takes place in a world where the majority of humans have these things called quirks, which basically means a new job description has arrived, which is hero, because you've got a bunch of these people with quirks who go out and fight crime, and also the criminals have quirks, so you need people with quirks to fight people with quirks. And it's this young boy who has always wanted to be a hero, but one day he gets told that he doesn't have a quirk, so it's basically impossible for him to become a hero. But still he wants to do it. One day
But wait, episode 3!
but wait, episode 3, well, his idol superhero, the number 1 superhero in the world, shows up and gives him his quirk, which gives him the ability to then become a hero and go to the greatest hero academy in the country. And it's all about his journey from basically the bottom of the ladder of heroes to becoming the number 1 hero. I like the show partly because I like underdog stories of that sort of nature. The cast of characters is great. The animation's like fantastic. Soundtrack's great as well. It's just a really fun story to watch. Like, it's probably not the most well-written story in the world, but it's just a really entertaining time. I don't really know much else to say.
Now,
That's fair.
now, Lewis,
That's a-
now,
Now Lewis
Torn
can
apart
like
from
dig
me.
into
hate
me.
about it.
Nah, I mean, I wouldn't. The thing, so I suppose this is my chance to correct perhaps a misnomer about me. I don't dislike My Hero Academia. I think it's just a mediocre pile of wank. Like it's
It's
no,
fine. That's
it's
Lewis's basic state on liking things. Is
honestly, it's far from shit. I mean, like, the side characters are fucking brilliant. My eternal issue, and my issue which will forever be about My Hero Academia, is that Deku is the dullest fucking character. The bit which really grinded my gears was when, like, so for
before
reference,
you-
I like.
Should
Oh, go
actually
on.
just as quick. What are we doing about spoilers?
Fuck them. If you're watching, assume there will be spoilers for any like fucking picks that we mention.
But
I imagine not full spoilers.
Maybe not
but-
full spoilers. Like
Don't-
so
don't-
far
don't-
in.
Don't avoid, like avoid saying the bit where Deku like fucking kills a nun or something. But like just fucking
For the
like
record, that doesn't
like
happen. But
if you want to stay totally spoiler free, skip to the next choice is what I'll say. Is that fair?
yeah,
we
well,
can probably time
Yeah.
We can probably.
Yeah.
I mean like totally zero
I mean,
spoiler free. Like
don't go past the first season.
that's fine. So, quick spoiler alert, in which case, Deku gets his superpowers. He gets the most powerful superpower, really. And my two problems with the fact that I thought the series could have gone in a more interesting direction, but that's kind of okay because that's where the right one to go. It's just that Deku is the most boring fucking character ever, and the bit which really grinds my gears is when after like tournament arc or whatever, you got like fucking Todoroki or Bakugo. Just going like, man, I wish I could stop thinking about Deku and sucking his oily taint, but I just can't because he's so. I'm just there like, why are you thinking about Deku? You two are in like everyone is an interesting character in that fucking show, but everyone seems to just keep thinking, man, Deku's so great, and it's like he's not. He's a green-haired little shit who can't even flick a cup without breaking his arm. Like Like I don't know, I really have an active dislike for Deku as a character.
I think.
Yeah.
The thing that I like about it a lot is it for me it's one of the better, if not one of the best, like shonens that are out there, because a lot of shonens are all just like they're all just very samey of like, through the power of like friendship or the power of believing in yourself, you just like
to be fair, Academia's got a bit of that.
It's got a bit of that, but it's not too as much. There's a lot more tangible things that they do.
Yeah, it's more working together using their powers rather than
now
or
like
push through this because we're too.
There's very little Deus Ex Machina in that show, which is something I'll forever appreciate from it.
Yeah, and the other thing that it does that other shonens doesn't do, which I also like, is that injuries matter. Whereas in other shonens, somebody gets completely beat up after a fight, and the next episode they're fine. Whereas in My Hero, if like Deku obviously has to break himself every single time he uses his quirk, those injuries carry forward. All Might's injury carries forward every single time All Might surpasses his limit. It affects the like.
And actually gets worse.
He actually gets weaker and weaker as the show progresses, because the injuries just carry forward, which I think is great, because they're actually like thinking about that rather than. So like fights have tangible meaning rather than just okay, they're gonna beat that and then on to the next one, he's back to full strength again.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I agree with that. It's one of those things that does it really well, and I think it does the whole like hero as a actual vocation, like a proper job of being a hero quite well. Like the only other thing that really tackles it like that is One Punch Man, but I think My Hero does it that little bit better.
Well, One Punch Man's a different ball game.
It is, but I was just comparing it to the fact
No, it's a fair comparison.
Has the hero. Oh, actually, the anime didn't reach there, so that might be.
Let's not.
Yeah.
But it does ask the question very well of what does it mean to be a hero? Like that's the question that's constantly being asked in the show.
That's where I'll counter that, though, because I feel the series betrays itself, because that's when it goes, what does it mean to be a hero? And the answer is, to be a hero, you just have to be a good person. Is it second episode when he saves Bakugo from that, like, fucking sludge monster or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's true heroism. What is not heroism is then going, well, you did such a good job of being a hero, you did such a good job of proving you don't need hero powers, here's some hero powers. I would have enjoyed the story so much more if it was Deku struggling to be a hero in a world full of heroes where he was a nobody. That's a real underdog story.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because let's be honest, in the story, he doesn't need powers. Because I when I first watched it, I was actually really impressed. And I thought his superpower was going to be, he keeps all his notebooks. I thought those were rad as fuck. I thought his fucking power was going to be, well, give this guy a two-way radio, and he'll tell you the weakness of every motherfucker under the sun. And he will be like, right, two of you go combo.
Can I just ask, how far did you get?
I got up to the episode with Gran Torino because that episode grated on me in a way that no others did, because it broke one of its internally consistent rules of all the heroes are generally quite down to earth. I'd appreciate that, and then Gran Torino just felt arbitrarily a bit not overpowered per se, but just a bit out of nowhere. Just why is this okay, fuck it, whatever. He's a mentor character. Yeah. I didn't so much give up at that point. I certainly didn't want to open myself up with the rusty old bit of tin, but at that point the series was already losing me, and I was like, I could be watching something better.
Yeah, I mean, like you did reach the point of like I can't really say anything without spoilers. But yeah,
Spoiler
though,
warning,
there's a
page
tonal.
19.
You're that was literally the arc where the tonal shift, like the tone of the show shifts. Is that
Well,
arc.
that's when the dude goes around and fucking bodies a whole bunch of heroes, isn't it?
Yeah,
Stain.
that's the Stain arc. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Stain
gonna
arc is
say.
fucking glorious.
I've read about the Stain arc, and like he seems like a decent. He seems like a
I
logical
think you'd
villain.
like Stain, Lewis. He's quite a well-written,
well, like, was
well-thought-out
he like
villain.
he? I mean, to be fair, I think doesn't he literally have my perspective in that he's frustrated about this world's definition of a hero when they've apparently just fucked themselves. See, again, the fact that that's phrased as a villain. Anyway, I can't comment on shit that I've not seen.
He's only phrased as a villain because actual murder.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
and bringing people
Yeah,
to-
because there are heroes, so there's got to be a villain. I get that. I go back and watch it, honestly. It's just I keep returning to the fact that I'm annoyed at the potential lost by the show's central premise and the fact that the main character, like, right, run with me on this, right? Deku is a pretty bad character. Like, as in, his personality is, like, fine until he gets his powers, at which point, just, like, he's the most stereotypical anime protagonist of, like, oh, why do you guys like me? And then everyone sucks his taint, and then he's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, see, Lewis, this is where you're opening up the can of the worms where I stop bringing up Shinji.
Wait, we haven't got there
Nah.
yet.
I was
Just
about to
wait,
say, don't
we're
worry, I-
storing that.
we've
I
we've
already
got-
know that's on some people's list, so I will wait.
We've got time for me to defend Shinji.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So I'll cap my points on Hero Academia there, because otherwise I'll be repeating myself.
Yeah, I think that covers My Hero Academia. For those who haven't seen it and want to see it, it's available on Crunchyroll sub, and the dub is available on Funimation. And the dub is, even though
Is the dub not on Crunchyroll?
no, the dub's only on Funimation because
No,
of the Crunchyroll Funimation deal. It's basically they basically split the thing, so Funimation always gets the dubs, and
That's
Crunchyroll gets the subs.
Strange deal. It feels like Funimation's getting the raw end of the the shit end of the
Well,
stick
because
there, doesn't it?
Funimation is a dubbing service. Crunchyroll
Well, I know
don't
it's
do
a
dub.
Yeah.
dubbing service, but Funimation also
They're
used to
going to
do-
get less traffic. I don't.
Yeah, they're going to
see,
get less traffic.
Well,
and they
the
also
thing is,
used to do,
Funimation get their money off DVD
translation.
sales.
Tell you what.
Of course.
Let's leave the conversation of subs and dubs for another time
Yeah.
because that's a topic that we can speak passionately about. So let's
Yeah.
just move on. Ben, do you want to give your number 5?
Yeah, sure thing. Let me check my list. Right. My number 5 is Violet Evergarden. Woo.
Violet or Evergarden.
Violet Evergarden is a show about a woman who was essentially just used as a dog of the military during the war, told to follow commands in this great big war that happened and to just go out and execute orders for this commander who she cared about very deeply. Stuff happens, the war ends, and she has no idea what happened to the commander, and she gets taken in and ends up writing letters for another military guy that ends up looking after her, essentially. She moves into this house and writes letters and becomes the thing called an auto memory doll, which is someone who goes around, talks to people, and basically puts their emotions and feelings into a letter to send to someone else. Sounds quite dull a little bit when you think about it, but it's a really good, deep show that really goes into human emotions, both the pain and lasting effects of war, and also just the basest feelings of emotions, with it falling into a episodic-like feel after the first 2 episodes, in which it comes a story about the people who the letters are being written about as much as it is about Violet and the other memory dolls and things like that, which really is where I think the show comes into its own, as the first 2 episodes, I would argue, is a bit slow-paced, and due to the fact of Violet's lack of emotion, which, yes, is her characterization,
But it's always a bad idea.
a little bit dull in the first 2 episodes being based around this character with literally no emotion. Which is why it's not higher in my list, because, quite frankly, later in the series, especially around episode 7 and 10 are fantastic. I think it's 7 and 10 anyway. And when you really get into the bits where you're exploring other people and you're exploring the emotions of people and things that actual real people have to go through and want to get across but can't, it's a fantastic show. It's brilliant, and it's very heart-wrenching and emotional when it needs to be, and also serious. And by the time it gets later in, and you've got that characterization that's acquired from all of these side stories, all of these episodic things, you see Violet's character evolve from the things that she's learned and taken away from all of these memories, and she grows as a character. And the contrast of that in the first episodes, where she's just this emotionless war tool, is brilliant when you look at it there. But as I say, it makes for a bit of a slow start to the series itself, which is why I probably couldn't put it higher, because I was a bit, I like it, but I'm not sure whether I'm totally into it. But then by the time I'd hit the later episodes, I was absolutely in love with the show.
Okay.
I like the fact that Dio's her boss.
The fact that her boss is voiced by the same guy that voices Dio still gets to me, because every time I expect him to just turn around and be like, Rodolada!
Yeah,
It's a good show. It's a good show.
It's a very good show, and it touches on a lot of issues that a lot of shows don't like to go for. And the fact that it does so in an episodic format and can have 24 minutes, just 24 minutes, focusing on this character you've never seen before, and yet get the same emotional impact of a climactic end of like a 12-episode series. Like, that's good writing, and that's good storytelling.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I can't completely comment on all of it, because it's interesting that you said, oh, episode 7, because I've only seen it up until episode 6.
You daft bastard.
So I haven't
Episode
actually
7
finished
is
the thing.
literally the one that made me go, no, this show is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
No,
So,
I think I agree with that. The start was quite slow, but once it actually got into the characters where she was going out to other places to do the messages, it really started to build up.
Yeah, that's where the show comes into its own, when
Yeah.
it stops focusing on the memory dolls of Violet, and it starts focusing on the other people and the human emotions, and gets into that episodic format. That's really where the show shines.
hmm
I'm in it for the world, honestly. Like, the characters are good and all, but I love that 1910s setting, and it like, I could call it a bit of a shitty comparison, maybe, but there really isn't many other ways of like describing it. It's like, Fullmetal Alchemist has got fucking the what's the place where they did the genocide?
Oh,
Ishval or whatever it is.
Ishval,
like,
that's it, Ishval, yeah.
Yeah. So they do the genocide there, and they constantly flick back to it and just show the fighting, which is kind of cool the first time around, but I think it loses the impact. I love this show's approach to talking about war, in that they show it like twice, like an actual battle. I think they only show like twice for a few seconds, and there's no order.
Episode later in. Have you seen the
Yeah.
whole thing, Lewis?
I've not seen the whole thing, no, which is why I was actually going to cautiously
that is
say.
entirely based around the war in like a backstory way.
Yeah, well, I disapprove of that slightly then, but it's only because I just, like, the first time you see it is in, like, end of episode 1, where it's muted, and it just shows her running through this mental battlefield as, like, fucking a bunch of terrified-looking men are getting absolutely massacred by her.
Yeah.
And I love the way everyone, it comes back to that writing. The writing is stellar in this, and it just comes back to that attitude toward the war, where everyone talks about the war as the war. No one talks about specifics. Everyone kind of agrees it was just a horrible thing that happened. And occasionally you just get the, I lost my son in the war, and no one says a fucking word. Like, it's not a, oh, how did he die? It's a, oh, right, the war. And it just feels like this omnipresent thing that tied everyone together, and everyone wants to forget about it. I love its approach to the war.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's such a good way of doing it, and even when you get like some characterization bits, such as the girl's brother who got injured in the war and so couldn't keep fighting in it and feels terrible because of that.
Yeah.
Like, even that doesn't focus on the war as such. It focuses on him and the personality and all of that.
It focuses on the effects
sorry.
of the war rather than the war itself.
Yeah.
Rather than the actual thing itself. Yeah.
Honestly, like, call it a weird comparison. I'd almost compare it a little bit to Silent Hill, the game series, in the sense of, like, Silent Hill as a town is a character, and it's just this omnipresent entity that's tying all these people together, and it just draws out so many emotions.
Yeah,
I love the way how
No one
Yeah.
ever talks about Silent Hill as an actual thing. No one ever goes
And
into
it's
the
like-
backstory of what the
Yeah.
fuck is Silent Hill doing? Why is it always doing this?
And-
You
and-
don't
and-
get
and-
that. You just get those repressed emotions and
and that's
feelings
what
out.
that's what I get from the war from this. It's just the raw emotions that thing evoked, and the fact that everyone is just trying to forget this massive, omnipresent thing that happened not too long ago. That's my favorite part about the show by far.
Yeah, it's great, and the world building really does add to that as well, especially when you get ones like the episode where they go and they're writing for the princess and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
This world has like princes and princesses of other nations. What happened in the war? What was this? How did this? And it just
Yeah. It's
it
also
just makes you want to know more.
yeah, it's also really stunning. Like
It
the
is.
show
It
It
is
looks
really
great.
fantastic.
It's that opening shot of
HD
Oh.
Saber is pretty.
HD
pretty
Saber.
solid.
Oh yeah, that's
love,
why you like it, Ben.
I love the opening shot of the fucking boat. If you remember that one, like
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yes.
that panning shot across the sky, and again it leads into the thing with like they got the beautiful fucking bridge, and they're like, well, the bridge got shot during the war, so I'll add a day to our journey. Everyone's like, yes, it's just like fucking like say no more.
Yeah, and then there's the bit where they're driving. They're driving,
feels
and
like
it's
you
just
go
like,
through-
yeah, there's still some war problems here, so you're gonna have to take this slightly rural route.
Yeah.
No one says a thing. He just goes, okay, to the soldiers, and they just drive on.
Yeah. I like it anyway. I'll stop talking about the war now.
The war.
The war.
Is that everyone done
I think-
talking
I
about Violet or Evergarden?
Yep.
I will
think
say
I can-
episodes 10 and 7 are the two that everyone should probably
We
watch. Though.
get it, Jesus.
Shut up! I'm allowed to have my favourites, Lewis. I'm allowed to be emotional every now and then.
Well,
Yeah,
if anybody who hasn't seen it wants to see it, it's available on Netflix. So
Yes. Fallon.
Hello. I am going to say I feel I'm going to have some crossovers with people because Violet Evergarden was on my top 5.
well, that's
Because I
fine.
didn't
We
send
have we
it to
all have.
Alastair, so he didn't know.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if we have
So-
crossovers or not, because there's a show coming up later on that all three of us kind of have on our list, so it's fine. That doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So I'm going to go on one that I thought was like more. It wasn't as mainstream, and I didn't know about it until someone introduced me to it. And it's Katanagatari. I'm probably butchering it.
Oh,
Katanagatari.
If anyone's seen it, it has a very weird art style, which I feel either
Yes,
makes
this
it
would
or
be
breaks
by-
it for you.
Yes, this would be by the Monogatari guy.
yes, it is.
Yeah. It either
Yeah.
makes it or breaks it because they're very cartoony and the colours, like the world itself is very colourful and the characters' designs are just very weird when you first look at it.
What? How do you
Which
spell
Yeah,
is-
that?
the hairstyles are based on like.
Katana.
Well,
It's Katanagatari. Katanagatari. Yep.
Yeah,
It's
so
fine,
I've
got
it's
it.
basically a story about swords. I think that is like literally what it means. It's a story about swords.
Yes,
so
it's
this
sword story.
young girl Togami is looking for an old war hero to help her take over. She wants to overthrow the government, and she goes to find and recruit and enlist help from this old war hero. But he's died, and she finds his son, who instead of using a sword, uses his body as a sword. Like it's martial arts. And it's the story of them going around to collect these like 12 demon or cursed swords that are being used, I think it's by the Empire, and their relationship. But similar to Violet Evergarden, that the main character, the guy, I think it's Yasuri, he is very emotionless at the beginning. Like he's been living away, locked in the woodland with his little sister, and basically very country bumpkin. And I think that puts a lot of people off like his character itself. But as they grow and he gets more emotional and he gets emotional ties to this Togami, the girl, it's their development as they go on, because it is an action, but then the action scenes are only a couple of minutes, if that. It's a lot of talking and their relationship building up.
I like the
It's,
sword that's a gun.
It's by
Yeah.
it's by the guy that did Monogatari, and so you can always expect a lot of expositional dialogue and nice scenery and visuals while going on, and lots of talking. But,
There was a lot of talking, but it's quite witty though. I quite like the talking.
Yeah.
I love the conversations in it, and it also does one of my favorite things. In the preview shows like a bunch of a fight coming up in the next episode, and then the next episode just starts with the fight over.
Yeah, the guy makes is a very weird guy. Now, so to me, I actually know a lot about Katanagatari without watching it. Thanks to my housemates really enjoying it. But yeah, no, sounds good.
Well, I know absolutely nothing about it. If I don't know, because some people don't know shows by their Japanese titles, so the English title for it is Sword Story. If anybody's interested,
It's never done by its English title.
yeah. I didn't know. I was just in
find
case.
the English translation, so. But no, I found it very different as an Edo era based show because a lot of them tend to be a lot darker. This seemed very bright, especially with the way it's animated.
Yeah, like the colours and contrast to some of the themes portrayed in the story are quite interesting, aren't they? Like the fact that everyone's character is so bright and colourful and almost cheery in disposition, and like the world portrayed to it, despite being told that there's this oppressive evil empire and they're using all these cursed swords and stuff. It's still made to look beautiful and colourful, and there's just that contrast between the themes and reality and the way that it looks that works quite well.
Rad.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of an art nerd sometimes.
No, that's good. Where can we find Katanagatari? Do you know?
I don't think I've just looked at it on my anime list. I don't think you can get it anywhere streaming-wise legally.
All right then.
Oh.
You would never do an illegal thing, right, listener?
Buy the DVDs. It's a really good show.
Do you own the DVDs of it, Ben?
Yes.
Oh wait, hang
Well,
on.
go. Yeah, listener, go get them off Ben. I suppose I should give my 5 now.
Yep.
Right. Now, Stardust Crusaders was a bit shit, so this spot wasn't occupied by JoJo, but my 5th place is a little bit contested. That being said, my 5th place is Bacano. Bacano is fucking mental. It is the Italian word for noise, with good reason. Set in the very early 1900s, the Train the Flying Pussyfoot is in the part of a three-way bank robbery three-way fucking train heist come rescuing an immortal come the rail tracers come to eat you all. It's very deliberately it's a story which is deliberately non-chronological, that strictly speaking spans from the 17th century to the 20th century, featuring various characters who are immortal and who aren't, and various mob families that are basically at each other's throats because of some bullshit. I can't describe the plot of the damn thing because it takes around about 12 episodes to do so. All I'll say is that basically there is no main character, and a lot of the story is left up to your interpretation because vast swathes of time and plot are skipped over, essentially, as you switch from character to character perspective. Looks great, and every character is eminently likable and the writing's good. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like it's not earth-shattering animation or whatever, it's just very competently written out. And the bit which really got me is close to the end, where there is an immortal mouse, and you are asked as a viewer, what do you think that mouse got up to when you weren't watching? Isn't that far more entertaining than anything we could have made? And I agreed.
I forgot about the mouse, and I literally watched back
about the mouse.
That mouse is the moment where I fell in love with the series of when just I can't remember his name, but the newspaper guy's like, now, imagine everything that mouse did. Oh yeah, isn't that very entertaining? Yes, exactly! Just imagine everything, isn't that way more entertaining? That late newspaper guy's great. Now the dude from the start, the 200 points guy. But yeah, I really like the show a great deal. I also love the voice work, which is something I don't compliment very often. I like dubs. Which is something I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in the future. But basically, everyone's got a very authentic, shitty American accent, and consequently, I love it. I love it to pieces just because it's got so much detail, and it's the writing. The writing gets me. Comments.
The Bakano dub is very good, especially given the everyone has American accents properly, like the proper shitty Brooklyn ones.
It's a shitty Brooklyn accent. It's very good to see.
I love
But yeah, so
Bakano.
have we all seen Bakano?
I haven't seen it.
You bastard.
Fallon, have you seen it?
I've seen the start of it. I've not finished it.
God damn it!
It was shown it up. I watched however
Do-ra-ra-ra.
it has first, yeah, and then was told about that being the first thing they came up with, and people either loved it or hated it, and it was something I meant to get round to, started, and didn't end up finishing it.
Bakano is something that you could. Yeah, Bakano is something which you could usually use a fucking timeline to help you with. It doesn't help that there's basically 3 stories going on at once of a quest for immortality, the train heist on the flying pussyfoot, and some asshole got thrown in the fucking Hudson.
Yeah, I will genuinely say that the biggest downfall, in my opinion, of Bakano is I could not give 2 shits about fucking Dallas.
Basically, there's so many side characters. There's some you'll give a shit about, and some you won't, which is kind of inevitable, really. But the thing is, it's just the characters that you give a shit about are incredible. So you got Isaac and Miriam, which are the best couple in anime, and then you got Lad Russo.
Miriam, my dear.
Right, so Lad Russo at one point has got a 1.5 minute panning shot of him giddily jumping down a corridor, hearing a fight in the next room, wondering what weapons they have, and he is the most authentic psychopath I have ever heard in all of fucking anime, as he's genuinely giggling with delight at the thought of machine guns being in the next room. It's a great variation in characters, basically. I'm kind of curious, actually. What's your opinion on Jacuzzi Splot, by the way, Ben and Fallon?
I like Jacuzzi. I think Jacuzzi is a very interesting character who genuinely cares about his friends quite a lot, and he's willing to do the shit, but he doesn't look like he's willing to do the shit. But it all comes down to it really does just come down to his relationship with, I forgot her name.
Who?
Is it the explosives expert that he's dating?
Oh, his girlfriend.
Yeah, I forgot her name.
It'll come to me in a second. Anyway.
Yeah, I can only think of Charlotte, you terrible
Niece.
man.
That's not Niece.
That's it, Niece. There we go. So, so Niece and his relationship is fantastic because, especially when you watch the OVAs and stuff and you see a bit more into the backstory of them, it's just so sweet. And the fact that he's kind of a little bit of a mob boss in his own right, despite the fact that he does just run a bootlegging gang. But
he's afraid of the rail tracer.
But yeah, he's a scared little kid that's decided to actually let wear his emotions on his sleeves, because then the moment that he has to actually face something head on and actually face a problem and go through it, then he'll have already cried all his tears before and got all his emotions out the way, so he can really concentrate and do what needs to be done when the time comes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He comes across at first as a bit of a crybaby, but does actually manage to get through that and like act tough as when it comes to what he needs to do.
It's a really interesting character of the type that's like, I will wear my emotions on the sleeve and be this crybaby, because then I will not be a crybaby when I'm actually in the face of some sort of danger or problem.
Speaking of crybaby, Devilman was also another anime that very nearly got this number 5 spot, but I couldn't decide.
Oh, I'm not allowed honourable mentions, but you are, I see.
It's because I'm quick about it. It'll take a year.
Well, I can.
Anyway, that's Bakano. You can legally access it via my house.
Yeah, I just checked. It's not available.
No, it is
anywhere
not.
in the
Most
UK. In
of
the
mine are
UK,
not.
at least. I should probably.
Again, buy the DVD.
I should probably preface this. The streaming that we're talking about is UK streaming, so it may be available in America.
Only one of my top 5 is available anywhere. Well, that's back around to you, Alastair. That's Bakano.
Oh, I get to talk about the show that makes me cry.
B Gata H Kai.
No.
What?
Boku
I actually
no
have-
Pico.
Oh.
Okay, right.
Magical Girl Sight.
Magical Girl.
You're listing
Oh, God.
shows that I have
Oh,
not
God.
seen.
Oh, do you have a magical girl site?
Have you watched episode 1 of it?
Fuck yeah, it's the edgiest fucking
It's
shit!
the edgiest show! Like, literally, you could fucking cut glass on that edge!
Oh, it's so good.
Oh.
Anyway, Alastair.
Yes, so my number 4 show is what I think, in my opinion anyway, is the best romance anime ever to be made, which is Toradora, which is a show about two people. The guy is somebody who takes on the looks of his like mobster father, but is actually a really nice guy, and he has to deal with the fact that he basically looks like somebody who's going to beat you up, but he wouldn't do that. And a petite tsundere lolly girl who basically would bash your head in at any chance possible meet, and they find out that they're each in love with their best friends, so they decide to make a pact and try and set each other up with their best friends. It's a wonderful story full of comedic moments, also some severe heartfelt moments as well that could make some people cry. It's just a brilliant story. It does go to completion, so it has a full ending. It's a full story. It's just wonderfully heartfelt and great. And the characters are all fantastic, and I just love the thing to bits.
Toradora is a very good show. I feel like I'm saying this after everyone finishes the description. But...
I have not seen it.
I do like Toradora. I can't say it brought me to tears, but I did like it.
Yeah, it didn't make me cry either.
No, it didn't really
very
make
much
me
liked
cry,
it
but I
as
know
well.
it's made certain people cry, so...
Yeah. I feel like it's, as these lists are going on, it's really making me feel like more of a weeb, given the fact that every single show I'm just like, yeah, I like that show quite a lot, I've seen that, and I'm starting to understand why my top 5 changes every day.
Yeah, I did really struggle to come up with a list.
Haha, see? It's not just me.
Yeah. I mean, my number 5 was difficult for me. Number 4 I've had... Number 4 is pretty much like set for me. Like 4 and up is just locked.
But yeah, Toradora. Toradora is... It's a really good show. I really like Toradora. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of fun moments with it. It's a good light-hearted show that does have those emotional heavy impacts, and it knows how to do a good comedic moment and get you invested in characters.
Yeah.
However, I don't know whether I'd pick it over the likes of Clannad, which had my emotions by the balls throughout 90% of it.
Yeah. Well, I will.
Yeah.
I could probably like counter that with because Clannad is my second favorite romance anime.
I like Clannad.
The reason I haven't put Clannad above Toradora is because the thing that makes Clannad for me is the second half of the second season. The second
Yeah, I see.
after
I
story.
agree the second season was better.
The second season is much better, but the start of the second season isn't better than the first
No.
season.
The thing is,
Yeah.
I cannot say shit about Clannad Story because it is such spoiler territory.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly.
Like we can't.
Yeah.
We can't say anything.
We literally cannot go into it at all.
Yeah.
Or I think most people unanimously agree that once it's got into the proper after story bit and not just doing side stories at the start
Yeah.
of the second season,
And
then that is
anyway,
the best part.
Yeah.
We're on the wrong anime now.
Yeah. So
We have just
well,
stop talking
anyway,
about
the
Clannad.
reason I like the reason is because it doesn't. Okay, maybe it has a slightly slow start, but it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to sit through this many episodes to get the payoff. Like, it feels like it's a nice, compact, complete show that does all the spectrum in 25 episodes, or whatever it
It
is.
does a good job of introducing a premise that doesn't change much throughout the entirety of the show, and managing to keep it fresh. Be
Yeah.
it through introduction of new characters that doesn't feel like these characters have just been thrown into the show for no reason other than filler, and through introduction of just like changes in motives and some personal progression or alterations to people's personal lives or whatever. It does a great job of mixing those in while still keeping the very, very same plot from episode 1 to episode like 24 pretty
Yeah.
much. Like, it manages to keep that feeling, like I say, fresh and interesting still, which is really, really good.
Yeah, and like going off the thing you said about interest, literally, I think like there's only really one character that's introduced later on, and it's not that far in either. When that one new character's introduced.
No, she's introduced like less than halfway in for sure.
Yeah, it's because it's before summer effectively. So
Yeah, it is. It is. But yeah, that's it. Toradora is a good show. I will continue to say this probably about every pick everyone has.
and I mean the soundtrack of Lost My Pieces or whatever it's called still makes me emotional every single time I hear it. So
I do not know the one you're on about. But
it's
I
the
will pretend I
one.
do.
It's the one that plays at the end of the Christmas episode.
Ah, okay, all right.
I will say no more.
Cool. Where can we see Toradora?
Toradora, both the the dub and the sub. The dub and the sub are both available on Crunchyroll. So, good things.
Wow.
Legal streaming.
Finally.
No, we would never suggest such a thing. Anyway, Ben.
Right, my number 4 is Sakuraso no Pet Nakanojo, or the English version is The Pet Girl of Sakuraso.
Uh-oh.
I have seen this.
I've read illicit things with similar titles. Go on.
It's a show that's more up here because of how personally I can relate to the show in such ways, but also it's a fantastic show itself. It's about a young boy who...
I literally know nothing about this show.
It's about a young boy who is in high school, and he's living in high school dorms and finds a bunch of stray cats and begins taking them in because he doesn't want to leave them on the street. At which point the school eventually finds out and says you're not allowed pets in the dorms. Either you put the cats back on the street, or if you want pets, you move into the dorm called Sakuraso. And Sakuraso is an infamous dorm where all of the weirdos live, all of the crazy people in the school. And so he decides to bite the bullet and live in Sakuraso so he can continue looking after the cats. At which point he moves in there and bumps into all of these people who have various, mental or social problems and issues in their lives that they're working through, but they're all in their own rights geniuses in some way. And so he moves in there, and then the person running the dorm's niece is coming over from England, and she is pretty much incapable of looking after herself in any way, shape, or form, doesn't know anything about how to be social, practically can't dress herself, all of that stuff, and he ends up being her carer, like he cares for the cats and stuff, and ends up being on, as it's called, Sheena duty for looking after her. He goes through, and it turns out, as I say, all of these people are actually amazing in their own right. So the girl with severe ADHD and autism is a excellent animator and is animating TV shows and stuff. And the girl that literally can't even dress herself that he looks after, it turns out she is this amazing artist that paints all these fantastic pictures. And he's just this normal guy living in a dorm with all these geniuses, and he just feels so hollow and empty as all he does is cares for them, and they're so much better at everything than him naturally. And so he decides that he's going to make a change in his life, and he's going to actually work to be like them. And so he starts taking a course in game design in his own time, and starts trying to make a game and enter competitions. And it's just the story of each of them getting over and dealing with their disabilities and problems, and learning that this guy has his own problems because everyone has all this stuff coming naturally that are now his close friends, and he has to work so hard and still fails despite the amount of effort he puts in, and getting over that, and the resentment that suddenly comes from that as well, and the issues of all the mental problems people have. And it also and describing it like that makes it sound really heavy, but it's actually mainly a comedy series and is hilarious.
It's quite light-hearted.
It's very light-hearted with a lot of mainly based around the comedy, but the undertones of that heavy feeling is the bit that made me love the show, given like how like all the problems these people have and the things that they're going through, and the feeling of trying so hard at something but still failing, and then the person next to you just with next to no effort is 10 times better than you. Just the feelings of getting over all these things and dealing with this is really what made the show stand out to me. But the comedy in it is also on point and fantastic.
Sounds very Fruit of Griseye.
Yeah, I'd describe it like a mixture of Fruit of Griseye and Katawa Shoujo, to be honest.
Shit, man, that's my jam. No, I've never seen this fucking thing. Sounds pretty cool though.
Has anybody actually seen it other than Ben?
I have. I've
Okay.
seen it.
'Cause I haven't seen it.
Ben did describe it very well. Like there is the really dark undertone, but the majority of it is this girl moves in and she's literally useless. She walks downstairs like in underwear, and he's like dragging her back upstairs to get changed, ready for school. She's completely useless by herself, and he sort of gets dumped in the caretaker role.
No, I know some people like that, so it does sound pretty fucking good. Like, I'm surprised after the description that it is a fucking comedy. I mean, not that surprised, but like surprised.
It does a good job of the comedic bits, and also does a great job of mixing them in with the serious stuff. Like, one of the characters in it is literally a coder who spends his entire time locked in his room talking to people via this AI that he's created that talks to people on their phones. And then when you finally see him, he is just this skinny guy that starts going to school again, but he just sits there in class coding away, eating tomatoes, because tomatoes are the proper brain food.
I see.
Right.
Well, Fallon, unless you got anything else, I'm afraid I got fuck all to say about this.
Yeah. me
No, I
neither.
think it's been a while, so I can't add anything. I can't think of anything to add anyway.
Fair enough.
Ben summarised it pretty well.
As
Whoop-de-doo.
regards to watching it, do you know where you can watch it, Ben? If there is.
I only know DVDs available, but I think it might be on Crunchyroll.
I'll just quickly check that
I
because I
don't
know
know.
it's.
I think I watched it on Crunchyroll. I think the sub's available on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I think
watched
it's
it
on
there.
Crunchyroll.
I think I have. Yeah, it is. I think. Yeah, it is on Crunchyroll.
Also, the first ending theme is amazing.
Okay.
Cannot say I cannot remember.
Rad.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Fallon, I think it's you now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm going to go. I really struggled to get these. K Project, also known as K. I don't know if anyone's seen it.
Nope.
Wait.
No.
Is that... I'm literally doing a rapid Google of it now.
Yeah, same
story
as
of. It's a story of. There is some sort of magical tablet, and I believe the Nazis got their hands on it. The Nazis are always involved, and there's 7 coloured kings. It's true. Everything seems to have Nazis.
It does seem to have
7 coloured kings, and ignoring that, we've got a normal student. Is it Shiro? Basically meaning white, I think it is. And
Yeah.
He's living his life, goes out and sees himself on TV committing murder, and has no idea what's going on whatsoever. And a manhunt goes on because he's killed somebody from one of these 7 Kings gangs. So obviously the Red King, who is it's his gang member that's been killed, is on a manhunt for him. He wants him found. And he's got no idea what happened. He didn't do it. He doesn't believe he's done it. And runs across Kuro, who is an ex-member of a coloured gang because the Air Kings recently died. And it's this mystery of, did he commit it? Because he is there on film, obviously, committing this murder. And Kuro feels that he should deliver justice, but wants to know what's actually going on first. So it's this story of these coloured kings are fighting because they're all different territories. So they're all going after this man, and Shiro wanting to know what's actually going on. Did he do this? He doesn't remember it, but nobody actually remembers him when he during the supernatural show.
It's a good. Once again, I will forever say it's a good show. We actually watched this at anime last year when I was anime repping.
Yeah,
We did?
Yes. No, it might have been the year
a
before
little
that.
bit
then.
of it.
Or did we watch it? It was during my year, wasn't it, that we watched it?
I don't remember fuck all about this.
Yeah, it was either last year or the year before. It was either when I was repping or when Kat was repping. But yeah,
It sounds pretty cool.
we watched the whole first series. And
Yeah, it's then got a film in between, and then the second series, and it's supposed to be having a new film come out this year, which is it's like spin-off stories, because the second season does conclude it, like it finishes the whole story off.
okay.
Okay,
See,
so
I've
it's
only seen the
finished.
first series.
Yeah, it has a second series, which second season that finishes it all off. But there is a joining movie in between the two.
Yes, I've heard of that. I remember because me and my friend were going to go watch the movie after we finished it. After we finished the series at anime.
Yeah. Now I know a lot. I love the art and I love the soundtrack, but I know quite a few people find the story itself a bit dry because there's that many characters involved and that much going on.
I really liked it. I like the contrast between the different types of kings and the gangs and stuff. Like the fact that the Blue King is basically a police chief, and the Blue Gang is literally police, whereas the Red Red King is literally just like a gang boss, and his group is a gang, a very tight knit family-like gang.
Yeah, which is why the murder of this Red gang member causes such a stir. But obviously, the first season concentrates on the Red gang and the Blue gang, but the second season introduces the other colours as well.
Okay.
So it gets very busy with characters.
I really enjoyed the first season, though. I like, honestly, the Red King and the Blue King were two of my favorite characters, and I do love them. I love the Blue King because I love the stereotypical archetype of I will push up my glasses slowly and then be faster than anything with my weeb sword.
That sounded sexy as hell.
And then the
Don't even regret it.
The Red King is the other thing that I super love, which is just I am hands in pockets, cool mob man, and I will just
boss, yeah.
I am mob man.
I will brute force, literally just punch a hole in this prison cell and walk out.
You fucking weeb.
I'm allowed
But
to
yeah,
have a
somehow it does link back to Nazis, which seems to be a recurring theme in anime.
It does.
I think it's
Nazi
I
got it.
I think it's that Axis friendship that they've got going.
I mean, true, but it's at end of the story. It links back to Nazis, like the Full Metal Alchemist. I think
Let's
it
not
was the original
talk about
series
that.
that ended up going
Let's
to
not-
Nazis.
Let's
Everything's
not talk
Nazi.
about that.
Everything is Nazi.
And
Hellsing
too
is
much.
Nazi.
Right, Hellsing unbelievably is actually reasonably Nazis. Like, Nazis are worked into it from the ground up. They're not just, oh yeah, Nazis!
Don't you remember that time in JoJo that they glorified the Nazi officer in season 2?
What, you mean Mark? Rest in peace forever.
No, I don't. I do mean Mark, and I also mean our Lord von Stroheim.
Hey, listen. They're not like I'm actually reading a book right now called Jackboot, which basically says that Nazi soldiers were kind of all right. The Gestapo were assholes. It's a hilariously biased book, but anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic here.
Christ.
It's an okay read.
Well, let's let that one be on recording.
Well, I read books. Yeah, all right then.
Yeah, what a fucking nerd.
Yeah, I mean, come on, all you do is watch anime, you fucking intellectual powerhouse. And you play games which are basically anime. I know for a fact Yakuza 6 is on your table right now.
I know for a fact you're literally upstairs in my house right now.
That was creepy as hell.
Yeah, that does
Co-op on
happen.
that, like-
Let's move on quickly.
Right.
Where can you actually watch K Project anywhere? I didn't find it when I looked
I'm
for
pretty
it.
sure
It's on Crunchyroll.
I'm pretty sure it's on Crunchyroll. I don't know if it comes on. Sometimes it's called K, and sometimes it's called K Project. It depends where it
The
comes on.
second season is Return of Kings, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't see it on
Well-
Crunchyroll, but if you say it's there, then it's.
Someone might have brought in a DVD.
Right.
You
I
can
suppose I
Google
should
it.
do. I'm trying to prep myself for my number 4 because this is open at all angles to attack. Right. It's a bit of a nostalgia pick. It's the first anime I ever really watched and got into. The first one I ever actually watched was Rin, Daughters of Mnemosyne and Elfen Lied, and that should tell you all you need to know about me. But the first one that I watched and I would consider to have actually made an impact on me is Code Geass, also known as Code Geass,
Hey!
also known as Code Geass. So I just call it Geese because it's funny. Code Geass is set in like essentially near future. It's an alternate timeline where the Britannian Empire, rather than getting snuffed out toward the end of the wars, instead evacuated from Britannia after the fucking attacks of Napoleon. They set up in the United States, and basically the Britannian Empire is now the Americas and now a giant imperialist power which spreads throughout the world. It owns about a third of the world at this point, if a little bit more. And the series centers on its invasion of Japan. And basically, the deal is that the Britannian Empire will take over an area and then it will segregate the citizens and will remove their names and any kind of national identity, giving Japan the name Area 11, my favorite band, named after such a thing. And the series focuses around Lelouch v. Britannia, who is an exiled prince of Britannia who was in Japan at the time of the invasion and decides, frustrated with the state of Britannia and of his father, the Emperor Charles of Britannia, he enacts a 52 episode rebellion against Britannia. I like both series. The reason I like it so much is because it's a masterclass in pacing. The first fight you get is a bunch of nightmare frames, which is their term for a mech fighting in a ghetto in the middle of Japan, and the end of the series is literally them throwing nuclear bombs at one another in a fucking giant air battle over Mount Fujiyama. The characters are interesting. It's not afraid to pull punches. And it was the first anime that showed me the like we've all like played a game or watched anime where it's like it showed to you that anime was worth something. It wasn't just Yu-Gi-Oh or like Pokemon or whatever. Like I watched Code Geass, and it's the bit with Princess Yuffie. I wouldn't say any more. And when that happened, I was convinced that anime was worth defending, and I was convinced that it was worth using my time watching it because it could do more than was expected of it. It's old and it's very flawed, but for sheer storytelling and pacing, I love Code Geass. Now you may fire on me at all angles.
Anime was a mistake.
I agree. But no, go ahead and fire on it, because seriously, Code Geass is flawed as fuck. Inappropriate trumpets beside, some of the characters are a bit
You
shit.
knew where I was going.
Yeah, like I say occasionally, quite often in the middle of conversation, as sort of an ambient soundtrack, you'll hear a very obnoxious trumpet occasionally go, like a...
There's literally an entire scene in which one character is having a very serious political conversation, and suddenly, out of nowhere, not even at the start of the scene, just mid-scene, you just get a...
Yep. I think its biggest problem is the fact that A, it's got filler up the butt, and its filler's pretty bad. And the tonal shift is very different. My favorite bit about this is the two lines that occur next to each other. Obviously, there's some time in between them, but the two lines in the script that are one after the other is, and so the first person to get the other's hat will be their Valentine. The very next line of spoken dialogue is, "Are you sure it was the correct decision to invade the Chinese Federation?" The tonal shifts in the show can be fucking jarring because it's a high school drama crossed with international politics war anime, and the worst part is the fact that the high school drama is very cutesy and the international war and politics pulls no fucking punches. It gets horrible.
See, right, I have a few issues with the show. First of all, is how overhyped it is for what was actually delivered in the final product,
True.
in my opinion. But that's just as someone who watched it after the hype wave, after being told, "Oh, Code Geass is amazing. It's one of the great ones." It was at the same time that everyone was going, "Death Note's the greatest thing ever."
Yeah,
so is Code Geass.
It was the same year, and it was the same.
And unfortunately,
yeah.
having watched it as a product of that time, I do kind of associate Code Geass and Death Note together in that it was good, I enjoyed it, but it was nowhere near the greatest thing ever everyone was hyping it up to be.
See,
yeah, there's a lot of shows that suffer from that.
Here's the thing, Ben. I agree with you so fucking much. Do you want to know why? My favorite anime of all time was released a month as Code Geass, and the two of them, as far as artistic merit go, could not be further apart from one another. So I entirely see what you mean. I'll level with you. I think I was a product of that hype. I've watched the show about 7 odd times now, mainly dubbed just while I was doing. I remember one time I was doing my A-level maths revision, and I just watched the show back to back, one after the other, on YouTube. And the thing is, I'm a product of that nostalgia, but it's inseparable for me because this is a deeply personal pick. Because as I say, it proved to me that anime was worth something.
No, I know exactly what you mean because I've got one on my list as well, which when we get to it will essentially be me saying I know it's not the greatest thing ever, but it's literally a nostalgia kick for me, and it's the thing that started me on anime, So.
So
I get the exact feeling and reasoning, but my biggest issue is for a show that every other scene has Pizza Hut boxes that the characters have.
Oh yeah, all right, I'll admit that's pretty bad.
For a show that has Pizza Hut boxes every other scene that the characters have obviously been eating the pizza from, why does everyone look like they're a fucking stick man?
Clamp designs, my friend, Clamp. That's just the way they design characters, man.
Yeah, it's false advertising. Everyone should have been like the typical like I eat Pizza Hut every day, boy.
that I'll admit is a bit like annoying how the nightmare frames in the second season, because I talk about the pacing as good as it is. Then in the first season you've got like Glasgow's and Sutherland's, which are just like literally just these mechs with fucking machine guns. Basically, they're nothing special. Second season, everyone gets a unique nightmare frame.
Yeah.
But no, like I would recommend that as far as what would you recommend to a beginner anime? I would definitely recommend Code Geass. It is available to watch on Netflix.
I forgot Netflix picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually not that long ago either.
No,
that is one of my classics from 2007 on this list. After that, I'll pass the torch over to Alastair because I think most people know about Code Geass by now. And if you don't, I would say watch it if only because it's a cultural touchstone, if nothing else.
Isn't it being brought back as well? Isn't there a new series coming out?
Yes.
Season 3, the resurrection.
Season 3 is coming out. Now, you may have noticed me specifically saying nothing about it during my time there. I have said nothing about it because I will await and see. Akito the Exiled was wank. So I am going to talk about season 1 and 2, and funnily enough, not the only anime in this list where I will refuse to discuss a second season.
Oh, you know where I'm going with that one, though.
Yeah. Let's leave that one for later. Alastair, take it away.
Oh god. Okay, so this is one where I'm just like, this is one that I know will like overlap with other people's lists.
It's Fate.
It's Fate.
Yeah.
So should we just do the whole Fate conversation now?
Which Fate is your Fate?
Right. This is where I'm now going to probably get killed by everybody.
It's Unlimited Blade Works.
Yes. My favorite Fate is Unlimited Blade Works and not Fate Zero. Even though Fate Zero is obviously close second to that. Like,
Ben, is Fate Zero on your list?
Joint first in the fact that my actual number one is a nostalgia trip, whereas my actual number one would be Fate, and so.
Let's talk about Unlimited Blade Works for now, and we'll talk about Zero later then.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll discuss why I like Unlimited Blade Works more than Zero.
No,
later.
if we're on Fate, we may as well just go through both.
Yeah,
if you think so.
Because we're going to end up drawing comparisons between the two.
Alright,
yeah, anyway.
Fate Zero is number 2 on my list. I'll say that right now.
Fate Zero is number 1 on my list in actuality, but I do have a different number 1 that I will be discussing.
Fate Zero gets a 10 out of 10 in my books. Unlimited Blade Works is good, but not as good because it loses focus. Anyway, Alastair, go on.
So, just a short description of what, well, kind
Fuck,
of like the
I mean,
Fate.
good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Fate universe in general is basically you have.
No, if
What?
you want a short description of Fate, here's a short description of Fate. 7 heroes of different classes are summoned by mages to fight to the death over the Holy Grail.
There
The
we go.
last surviving one gets the Grail.
There we go.
And the
That is
hero,
Fate.
the heroes are heroes from history.
The heroes
Like
are heroes from
legend.
history, both past, present, and future.
Yeah. So,
Anyway,
Unlimited
that'll do.
Blade Works is the second. What is? Oh, I've forgotten the word for it now. Route. It's the second route of the original visual novel.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah.
So. I don't really. Should I just say why I prefer it over Zero? Or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do you. You do you.
Well, essentially, the reason I prefer this over Zero is because, first of all, I prefer to focus on a smaller group of characters rather than having my focus drawn to essentially 7 different teams equally. I also like having romance in my stories that I watch. Unlimited Blade Works has that. Fate Zero doesn't.
I don't know, man. Kenneth and that fucking origin bullet sure to get it on.
Man, KFC, Canis Fried Circuits.
Oh, I never heard that one before. I like that.
I mean, they're all very like niche reasons of why I prefer Unlimited Blade Works. Like, I like Unlimited Blade Works so much also because I like Rin. So, like,
Yeah, damn right, boy!
also, I mean, it's a minor thing.
Grey Hate can leave.
It's a minor thing, but I think the openings are better for Unlimited Blade Works, and I include that in my
I'd agree on the
listings.
openings.
So
I disagree with all of your opinions. No.
I knew you would.
To be fair, I do prefer Fate Zero's openings. I mean, Ben, do you mind if I get mine out of the way? Because it's pretty fucking short.
Yeah, sure thing, man.
I wish I could suck Generabuchi's pussy. I'll say it now. Nah. So, Fate Zero is the most internally consistent anime I've ever seen. It's been on my mind a lot recently, for reasons you'll understand about the stuff that I make is very internally consistent, which has been called suffering in the past. I maintain it's a form of realism that just comes from internal consistency. Fate Zero has the same rules for everyone. You live and die equally as well. No one is safe in that world, and like the moment that it gripped me by the fucking balls and made me binge watch the entire thing over 2 days was when a Cthulhu monstrosity is summoned which instantly kills a kid in episode 2, and I realized that nobody was safe, and not in the Game of Thrones kind of way where, oh, nobody's safe apart from these. No, seriously. Everyone suffers in this show. It rains on good and bad alike, and it is just it's wonderfully written, directed, and the action's amazing. That's great. But the writing and the rules that this world pays to, and just the fact that death is a quick thing that takes everything away from you instantly, and you are left to lament about it for episodes at a time. There is no epic, grand fucking... Right, the final boss, air quotes, of the fucking thing just ends with a guy getting shot straight through the heart because he disagrees with someone else. There is no great soliloquy. There is no fucking philosophizing. It is just quick and brutal, and I love it. Ben.
I agree with literally everything he just said.
It's inspired my own work to a ludicrous degree. I'll put it that way.
I love Fate Zero. I love that it just does the dark things. It just does the gritty reality of a world. Despite being this fantasy world with all these ridiculous fantasy stuff like like origin bullets and fucking magic and ancient heroes that can fucking fly on their chariots. Despite having all of that, it is grounded in realism.
Do you know where I actually found out about Fate Zero originally, Ben?
Where?
You'll fucking like this. I found out about it via r/Shadowrun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I found out about it, and it was just this wee GIF, and I was like, "Oh, is this a fucking anime GIF?" And it was literally, and you'll know the scene exactly. It was the bit when it was like when the high level mage just got his trouser paired, but wasn't prepared for the Shadowrunner team, and it's I've got 3 floors dedicated with 19 monstrosities linked to parallel dimensions, and then a ton of and then a ton of C4 fucks the building to death. That was the first thing I ever saw of Fate Zero, and I was so happy the moment I saw it.
It's great. It's just so ground. Every character feels real, even the ones that are fucking fantasy. Every battle feels like a proper battle with things going on in it. There's none of this bullshit. There's no ridiculous anime fights as such. Like everything that happens is like Saber goes to save the kids, and fucking Cthulian monstrosities pull themselves out of the kids' bodies.
Magical.
And you just have that level of grounding, the dark, gritty realism that is humanity and would be what these mages and people were doing in this war. Not everyone is a wholly positive knight that is Saber. Not everyone is this glowing force of thinking they're good. People are shit, and people will do what it takes to win, and it really emphasizes that, and that's why I like Zero over Unlimited Blade Works. I love Unlimited Blade Works. It would also be in my list if we were allowed more than one of a specific series, but Unlimited Blade Works is anime. Fate Zero is
truth,
realism.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I do agree with like literally everything you've said. The only thing that makes me put Unlimited Blade Works above Zero is, and it's literally, this is just a personal preference thing, of Unlimited Blade Works is something that I don't know, I just felt happier when I watched it.
Weeb.
And also I'm more likely to want to rewatch Unlimited Blade Works than I am Zero. Like,
listen to me, my friend. If you can't play Song of Sire without a grin on your face, you're not ready for anime.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Fallon, what is your opinion?
No, I had Fate Zero on my list, not Fate Unlimited Blade Works, because I thought the nitty gritty dark stuff made it better. I totally agree with everything Ben just said.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the thing that Zero does is bad. I just like.
No.
Oh no, Alastair. This ain't us attacking
none of us are disagreeing with you. We're not attacking you.
Unlimited Blade Works is a solid 9 out of 10 in my books. It's just that Fate Zero is one of only 2 anime I've ever given a 10 out of 10. Then, like, I'll actually argue that Fate Zero is better to rewatch than Unlimited Blade Works, because Unlimited Blade Works focuses on the same team, and you've already got your opinions on them. I've watched Fate Zero 3 times now. My favorite characters have genuinely switched every time I've rewatched the series. Yeah. It's been like watching it again. Like my new favorite character in the series is Kirei. Originally it was Kiritsugu. Second time watching around it was the Matau boy. And then now it's Kirei and Gilgamesh and how great his character arc is. And I don't know. It's just like Generabuchi, Will You Be Mine is basically the title of my fucking autobiography at this point. So like, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, fucking, like, it's kind of weird, right? So, Ben, you answer this. You're a fucking soppy cunt, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Have you, so, you regularly shed the fucking babby tears. Have you ever shed a babby tear at Fate?
At Fate, no.
See, that's the thing which I was gonna say, because I've been thinking about it recently about how the fact that like a lot of people saying I got so emotional I cried at something is a bit of a cornerstone for a series, and I've been thinking about it recently. But like Fate is the most engaging thing. Sorry, Fate Zero rather is the most engaging thing I've seen in my goddamn fucking life, and I've never known anyone to shed a fucking tear at it. It's just ruthlessly engaging. It's all just so perfect.
I mean, the fight on the bridge between 2 characters got me.
I love that.
The episode before where a certain character uses all of their command seals.
Yeah.
Those got
Those
to
are
me,
good.
but it didn't. It wasn't. I didn't cry. You know,
Right.
it choked me up, but I
yeah.
didn't cry.
I'll say this now. I think Gilgamesh is the perfect villain in this sense, in your very stereotypical sense. Like, my favorite villain of all time is still Kiryu Shikage, but Gilgamesh is your perfect villain in the sense of I have massive amounts of power, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "Oh yes," and then instantly kills them. It's a character who is immensely powerful and arrogant and can back it up. There's nothing that I hate more in this world than a Shinji type character from Fate, where it's like he's arrogant and can't back it up, so everyone just laughs at him. I love the arrogant characters who will back it up and then annihilate you and then some. Like,
Yeah, Gilgamesh doesn't hold anything back, does he?
I love Gilgamesh. I think if I had to put my finger on it, Gilgamesh would be my favorite character consistently throughout Fate, just because he is the perfect villain, and it just shows so much about Fate Zero in that he is never portrayed as one. That let's be honest, the best episode of Fate Zero is where 3 characters sit down and chat in a garden.
Yes, it
That
is.
It's true.
That is a fantastic episode.
The best episode of Fate Zero is when 3 characters sit down and drink wine. That is the best episode, and it's like, if that's not testament to writing in a ufotable anime renowned for its action, and I agree with them, I don't know what will. Anyway, let's move on from sucking Genro Ibuchi's dick, said no one ever.
We'll probably have a proper full Fate cast at some point.
Yeah, where we discuss everything that is Fate.
God, I love you, Genro Ibuchi. Anyway,
or we can have a Genro cast.
Anyway, who's next?
Ben, I think.
I believe, yeah, technically we did Alastair's there, so it's me.
Yeah, Benny boy, you go ahead.
Right, episode 3. Get ready for episode 3's reverie of Ben likes to change his list 2 hours before the fucking podcast starts.
You've been stealing words off of me, Ben. I think it's the most adorable thing ever.
What? How so?
You never said the word reverie until I started using it.
Oh, I don't know, Lewis. You don't know. You don't know me.
I think I know you pretty well. Anyway, this is not the Ben and Lewis suck each other cast.
Oh, no.
Go ahead, Ben.
My number 3 is.
That's the title, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I will vote for this.
You know
So
what? Fuck it, I'll go.
So many possible titles.
I'm writing that down.
Right,
the Ben and Lewis suck cast.
Anyway, Ben, continue.
Yeah, my episode 3. My third favorite is an anime that ironically I finished last night, and that's A Place Further Than the Universe.
Oh shit!
I haven't seen it yet.
I've not seen it.
I will not spoiler. I will be brief. It is a show based around 4 girls, each very different in positions at the start, and the first one you're introduced to wakes up one day, she's in high school, and she realizes that she's essentially wasting her youth. She's done nothing that she wanted to do, she's done nothing to grand in an adventure, and this is the time that she should really be doing this, and feels like her life is slipping away as it gets closer to her having to, get a normal job, at which point everything's more difficult and all of this stuff. At which point she bumps into another girl who's teased and called Antarctica in school because she tells everyone she's going to Antarctica because she's dreamed of going to Antarctica her whole life, well, most of her life, because her mother went there and her mother never came back with the expedition, so she wants to go. She wants to see this great thing that was her mother's dream and this reason for carrying on. And so they start working together to get there and go on this expedition to Antarctica, and they end up picking up other people on the way, like they pick up a girl, and it just touches on so much and so many great things. Like they pick up a girl who was a idol, well, not an idol, like a celebrity as such, and she's been asked to go on the expedition as a sort of, hey, look, anyone can go on these expeditions, have a good time, showcase it sort of thing, as a reality thing, but she really doesn't want to go. And so she's lamenting over the fact that she's never had any proper friends. everyone's only friends with her because she's this celebrity, and no one ever, and because she's so busy and stuff, any real ones she does manage to get end up leaving her because she can never hang out with them because she's always so busy with all of this crap. And so then she meets these, and she finally feels like she has this place to belong, and you've got all these characters just going on this great innocent journey. And honestly, it's an emotional journey without meaning to be as such. It's literally four anime girls travel to Antarctica together and just have an adventure. And I had worries at the start that it was going to be they're going to get to Antarctica like episode 4, and then it's just going to be some moe bullshit. No, it was not. It is a fantastic show, grounded in the actual reality of everything. There is an entire episode dedicated to them being seasick because it's their first time on a boat, and it's just fucking 24 minutes of them being ill, feeling like shit, having a terrible time, and yet they love it because they're having a terrible time together on this like adventure. And it genuinely just touches on like misspent youth and makes you feel something about the characters and the adventure and the journey. And sure, some people will probably just watch it and be like, it's a really pretty, really good show. But to me, actually, it just spoke to me in some way of just like, you know, do the things you want to do, spend time with people you actually care about, go on your adventures with them, because that's what really matters in the end. And it's a really, really good show with great comedic moments, great characterization, and once again, kind of grounded in some semblance of realism. And the name, I do genuinely love, A Place Further Than the Universe, because what it is it's a reference to the fact that to leave the Earth's atmosphere from Japan is actually less of a distance than to reach Antarctica. And so Antarctica to these four Japanese girls is genuinely further away than the universe.
That's pretty cool. Can I offer my opinion on this one while I'm extraordinarily careful to do so?
Yes.
I don't want anything that I'm about to be saying to be taken as a criticism toward the show, because the show is magical and a good thing. I think that life imitates art a little bit. I said this when I described the show at Anime Sock, but A Place Beyond the Universe is about a person who feels that they're wasting their life and consequently decides to do something about it. The fact that this is in the form of an anime, which I'm not going to say has been pandered to the young adult male populace, but the fact that it contains several cute girls doing cute things, TM, I think is probably something of a deliberate choice. And I think that the show is well intentioned, but I really, really hope that people take a good look at what they're doing if they watch this show. And if anyone who watches this, as I say, particularly in this young male NEET category, which has become so stereotypical in Japan, looks at this show and then goes, man, I wish I could do something like that. That's the time where you switch off the anime and go do something with your life.
Yes.
I think that life imitates art a fair bit in this show, and I've not seen it. I've heard a lot about it. I've researched a fair bit about it, actually. I just haven't sat down and watched it. I think the most magical thing this anime could do is if at the end of the season they just point blank turned toward the camera and just said, do something you've wanted to do.
That's pretty much what the show is.
I know that's what the show's about, and that's what makes me happy about it. And
well, I can't say anything without spoiling the ending.
No, I know. But I just, as someone who does things and who enjoys doing things, who previously really struggled to do anything with anybody, if you feel like you want to do something, if you feel inspired by the show, like I've read so many people have been, stop watching anime and do something. Make something. Draw, write, go visit Antarctica. All of it does fine. I think this is a wonderful show, and I really hope it has a very positive effect on a great many people. And that's about as sincere as I'll get for a while, so I'm just going to say some words to diffuse the tension. Whoops, fanny knickers.
Man, Lewis,
You're giving me
that'll
all
never
the
take away the
titles.
fact that we have a genuine recording of you being the most sincere you will ever be.
I'm not gonna lie. I do get sincere every now and then, and that's me being sincere. So anyway, let's all make fart jokes.
But yeah, seriously,
No, seriously, it's a fucking wonderful show. And I really hope there's a lot of people
watch the fucking
Yeah.
show because it's amazing. And during the entire, I don't think there was one moment during the entire show that I wasn't either emotionally attached or gripped in some way, or just grinning ear to ear at what was going on. And just, I loved every second of it. And
Is
I
it
wish I
better-
could experience it for the first time again.
I get the same way about the Crash Bandicoot "Whoa" meme.
Oh, whoa!
Whoa!
Oh god. Right, so where can they watch this, Ben, if they wanted to?
Crunchyroll.
I'm
The
just
Crunch
going to
Rolls.
speed this along a bit, considering that we probably want to try and get to our number ones at some
I
point
mean,
during this
it's not
podcast.
imperative.
Yeah, I want to stop before 6, preferably.
I imagine
That's optimistic.
I
We
feel
have-
that you're going to have too much to edit at this point, by the way.
Probably
Edit!
not.
I'm not editing anything.
These things.
This
It's
is
a-
going
I
up
thought you
as
said
3
you were
hours.
editing it.
This is coming up at 3 hours.
Fair enough.
We're wasting precious daylight, people! Who's next?
That'd be
Oh,
Fallon.
Drill Sergeant Lewis.
Fallon! What's your number 3?
Now, everyone's going to yell because I'm going backwards because Fate was higher, but Hunter x Hunter.
Okay,
Shonen,
that's pretty rad.
everyone's going to hate me.
No, but I've heard good
But
things.
no.
I've heard good things and I've seen a few good things.
Ah,
No, I loved Hunter x Hunter. I think he's 10,
This is
12-year-old
the,
boy.
This is the 2011 version, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I have watched the original one, but no, the 2011 one's better. So, a young boy, his dad is what is known as a hunter. So basically, they're professionals in any field. They can do whatever they want, from medicine to archaeology to cooking. And he wants to go and join this hunter association to go and join his family. Now, it starts off really light-hearted. He has to prove himself to his aunt that he can go off by catching the biggest fish in the lake. It seems like very, very childish to begin with. And then as you go further in, it gets a lot darker, especially in the later arcs. As you get further in, it's so dark compared to the beginning. And but I know a lot of people complain it seems very disjointed, the arcs. The arcs they look like giant filler episodes. They're so different from each other. And it's this story of this kid meeting other friends and going on this journey to find his dad.
I've rather hilariously only actually watched the first episode of Hunter x Hunter, and I happened to be in the room when Alex was watching the episode where he finally meets his dad. I feel like I've missed a lot of emotional weight.
Yes, you missed a lot in the middle.
Oh
man, what a skip you went through there, Lewis.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes, there's a lot of
it's kinda
arcs
like-
in the middle there.
It's kind of like you start watching Fate Zero. There's a Holy Grail war that summons 7 serpents. Immediately cuts to, yes, the Grail is here.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yeah, you've gone from start point to end point there.
Gilgamesh
the
there,
entire
resting his
thing.
balls on Fuki City.
I've been meaning to watch Hunter x Hunter because I
Same.
keep hearing good things, but it's one of those long anime, and some of the character
Yeah.
designs put me off in the fact that I look at it and I look at it and I see when it's a show that's like a shonen show or a fighty show sort of thing, like One Piece or anything like this, that has the main character as like a 12-year-old kid that looks young like a 12-year-old kid and stuff. I always look at it and I just like, am I going to be able to be invested in this fucking 12-year-old kid going out and doing all this, like, crazy battles and stuff? Because in my head, I'm never going to be like, this doesn't really have the same weight and stuff to it because he's a 12-year-old kid. Like, this is
No,
like...
I can't understand your point there.
And it's
But,
it's like I can get on board if all of the characters are around the same age, but when there's such a difference and it's like you get a 12-year-old kid fighting like a 50-year-old man, I'm just like, what? Sometimes I just can't it just takes my mind a minute to get around that and sort of realize it, you know? Like, it's a weird problem, and it's one that I had, and I had the exact same thing with One Piece, and I don't even know how old bloody Luffy is, but when I was...
At this point...
Old enough, I think.
Your boy Monkey Gay Luffy.
When I was...
He was about as old as Ash Ketchum.
When I was
Yeah.
reading One Piece, or looking at some of the early episodes, because one of my old housemates really liked One Piece, I'd go through, but every time I'd get round to it, I'd look at Luffy and I'd be like, but I can't get invested in this stupid fucking kid with his straw hat punching these, like, 50-year-old beefy pirates. Like, it just doesn't feel... In my head, it feels like a fucking... I'm gonna pull a random video game reference no one gets. It feels like the fucking Tekken, in Tekken, where a young fucking character is beating up his dad, and his dad's like this beefy 40-year-old guy, and he's like a 12-year-old kid. He punches his dad, does like next to nothing to him after like 2 minutes of fighting, then his dad just punches him once and throws him off a cliff.
Right.
If you want
Like,
to know...
it feels like that's what it should be at every situation, and that's my problem, and I don't know why I spent 10 minutes talking about it. I'm sorry.
If you wanted to know, Ben, Luffy is 17 at the start of One Piece.
No,
Fuck off.
fucking not.
He is. He's
That's
19,
like,
he's 19 after the
that's
time
like how
skip.
Ilias Vale is fucking, like 18. Like, fuck off.
Homunculi I don't age.
Fuck off.
Um,
She's an immortal vampire. That makes it okay to jack off to her. That's right.
oh no.
Anyway,
Oh, no.
The lollies are coming for you.
Oh, fucking no! I don't want them to. Don't want to be arrested.
But yeah, to summarize, for some reason on someone else's pick, I'm so sorry. I do want to watch Hunter x Hunter though.
Yeah, same.
Like I hear a lot of good things.
I think you said the issue about them not
Yeah.
being the same age. The main two characters are Gon and Killua, which are, if you've seen it, there's the little guy with spiky black hair, and then a little guy with blonde, with very white hair, who looks almost albino.
Yes.
It's the two. Yeah, the two of them are the main characters at the same age, and they are night and day. So Gon is this really cheerful little guy that finds positive in everything. And Killua, which is the white-haired guy, is a trained assassin at like 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
So you get to the very first fight scene, and Gon's like, "Yeah, I'm so strong, and how are you doing this fight?" And then Killua walks out and knocks the guy out first try and walks back off.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite good. I like that. Why is the
That's
main
pretty sweet.
Why is the main villain a pink-haired like clown that killed someone in prison?
Oh my god.
Tattoo?
Okay, so basically,
I've heard good things about this guy.
I love the villains in it because I hate them so much. So
That's good villain writing, though.
Hisoka is basically a pedo clown who is chasing Gon all the way through the series.
Okay.
Fun times.
Yeah, it gets weird. And then the other one goes on to, I think he's called Crollo, and it's is in charge of like a mob group, and he is also amazing. Like one of the scenes has basically an opera scene of him, like Phantom of the Opera, and it's beautiful.
Doesn't
okay.
Hunter x Hunter also have the OG character arc? Tournament arc, rather.
It does have a tournament arc, yeah.
Yeah.
More or less. That's like
I'm-
right at the start.
I'm pretty
That's
sure
right at
that's...
the start of them getting the qualification.
Right, okay, because I'm pretty sure that's the thing that actually popularized tournament arc as a meme.
No, that's it. It's a tournament arc for them to get the Hunter qualification.
Okay.
And then they go off and do all these little arcs of them actually developing their skills and deciding what they actually want to do with this qualification, because you can go so many places with it. And I feel that's something it lacks. It doesn't actually show you all these opportunities it talks about of, oh, you can go and do medicine, you can go and be this cook and go to foreign lands and stuff. No, it's these kids are just finding his dad. They're quite simple-minded on their journey.
It sounds like
Okay.
a really interesting world.
The world looks amazing. I really hope, but I've only seen the anime. I know it picked up again. I think it's currently airing again. It's gone further, but I haven't seen that yet.
Sounds kind of monster.
I'm hoping
in
it
some
goes-
respects.
There's parts of it that I would agree. Especially one of the last arcs is very like animal monster based.
Okay.
So that I can say, yeah, definitely.
Nice. Where can you watch Hunter x Hunter anywhere? Like,
I don't actually think you can.
It was on Netflix at one point. I don't know if it's still on there.
I do
did
remember
originally-
seeing it
I
on Netflix.
originally-
Yeah.
I originally watched the start of it on Netflix and then went somewhere else to watch the rest of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be that the start's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Right. I
Lewis.
suppose now I open myself up. So, my top 3 have not changed since I watched any of these shows. They've occupied this spot and not fucking budged since. That being said, my third favorite anime of all time is Neon Genesis Evangelion. A classic, beyond classics. Everyone's heard of it, at the very least, and not seen it. I will summarize shortly why I like it, if I'm being honest, just for time considerations. There is a lot more reasons than what I'm about to say that I like NGE. It explores depression, detail and personal love that I have never quite seen before. And I can sympathize with that due to my previous history with mental health and the fact that I know a great many people with mental health issues. The main character of Shinji, which will be a great discussion that we'll have, I imagine, I think is, whilst an archetypical anime protagonist, also deconstructs the protagonist role in just existing. The characters are universally miserable, and it's a true deconstruction of the genre while somehow transcending it. It's a product of its era, yet at the same time timeless. The entire thing is filled with contradictions, I'll argue, because on the one hand, you've got some epic mech show, and right. I'll spoil slightly now. Skip ahead if you want to. 1, 2, 3. It's a mech show with the single most creative apocalypse I've ever seen in my entire time of consuming media. Third Impact is by far and away just the most imaginative apocalypse I've ever seen, and so final at that. And yet at the same time, it will dedicate 2 full episodes to a 14-year-old overcoming his anxiety, hatred of himself, and desire to be accepted by other people.
Congratulations.
It's a thing of... Congratulations, Shinji. I like the last 2 episodes, genuinely. It's also the one of the few things I've ever changed my mind about. When I first finished NGE, I was like, what the fuck was that? Over a week, I grew to think, okay, maybe it wasn't so bad. A week later, it was my third favorite anime of all time when I began to really realize what it was trying to say. I'm going to keep it relatively brief there. That glazes over near as damn it all the detail of the show, but for a very brief summary, very, very damaged 14-year-olds get into mech suits to fight like godlike monstrosities known as angels, and then after a while, the world ends.
Gendo proceeds to do nothing wrong.
Yep, and the series explores all of these characters and how universally damaged they all are. Fire on all sides, I guess. The reason I like it is... Yeah, you know what, actually, that'll be it. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about it, if I'm being honest. I think if I can't get across what I like about it like that, I don't know what else will.
I'll just go in and say what the big reason I don't like it. Shinji.
I suppose this would be the controversy.
That was sorry. Maybe when I said I don't like it is a bit too strong. I enjoyed Evangelion. It's not one of my top anime because of Shinji. I just don't like Shinji's character at all.
I love Evangelion. I hate Shinji.
Yeah, it's essentially that.
Tell you what, then. Fallon, have you seen Evangelion?
I haven't. No.
I
cannot support you here, Lewis.
That's alright. Alastair and Ben, let's keep things civil here. Explain your problems with Shinji. I'll explain what I like about Shinji. Then we'll move on.
Alright, my problem with Shinji is he reminds me too much of myself back when I was a depressive wreck.
And that's a bad thing.
For me, it's just kind of like I just feel it felt loopy to me. Maybe I didn't understand some things that were going on or whatever, emotionally or whatever. But to me, it was kind of like, okay, he's scared about getting in the mech. He doesn't want to get in the mech. He gets in the mech. He fights. He gets out of the mech again. Gets back in the mech again. It's like this constant thing of just like, just stay. Like, you've overcome this already. Like, stay there. Don't go back. It's kind of like the thing of just like, stay in the mech, please.
No, he's got to overcome his mental problems so he can masturbate over that comatose 14-year-old girl.
And they're in like it is like the awkward sentence where like Shinji.
I should also add to this, I have not seen the end of Evangelion yet.
Oh,
Well, what the fuck is wrong with you? Anyway, sorry. No, I need to remain calm. Shinji reminds me of me when I was depressed. That's the reason why I like him so much. Sorry, Ben.
boy, do we have different reactions to that.
Like, I watch him and I think I understand what you're thinking so much. It's a purely personal thing. I understand where he's coming from. I understand his confusion when he doesn't quite get why people don't like him. He's strange and he knows he's strange. And I think the indecision is central to Shinji's central character arc, right? This goes all the way throughout the entire series when he will constantly change his mind about doing things he's committed to. Even at the end of the goddamn anime, full stop, he ends the world, then changes his mind. Indecision is central to his character because he's desperately trying to appease everyone else and doesn't know what he wants to do to make himself happy. That's why I like him so much, because at the end of the series, in those 2 episodes, he finally realizes that instantiating himself in other people's minds and being happy with himself as a person and being happy with himself in other people's minds is what he truly wants out of life. And I think that's the last time he'll ever change his mind, but it calls to the very primal 14-year-old me who was very strange, who did not have many friends and didn't understand why. And then I changed, and I think a lot of my hope for Shinji is that he'll change too, basically.
Have you seen the movies?
I've seen all of the movies.
Okay.
And the end of Evangelion is a masterpiece, obviously. Weirdly, I love the combat in it as well. It's rare that I stop my fucking narrative boner for a hot damn, that was a greatly executed action sequence. But, like, you know, when Asuka's fighting the mass production Avas, and even when fucking Nerve headquarters is being invaded by the soldiers, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. The attention to, like, not detail per se, but it feels very logical the way all of the fights in this happen. And I love Rei as a character. Just literally it is what all the characters in anime which are emotionless husks. What would happen if one of those people existed? What would their life be like? And it explores that. And then you take Asuka, who is a character who I've had controversial opinion in the sense that Ben fucking loves Asuka and I prefer Rei. No, I love Asuka as a character. She's someone who wants to not rely on others because everyone's failed her at every single turn, and yet is forced to rely on other people, and it breaks her. It breaks her as a person.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I love her as a character.
No. Oh, no, I like her as a character. I prefer Rei's arc. And then ultimately my favorite character in all of Evangelion, which is Kaoru, who is...
Yeah.
Right, Ben, let me go before the meme. Let me just explain. Kaoru is Shinji's best love interest in the entire show. He is spoilers 1, 2, 3. He is an angel. He is the last angel that Nerve has to kill before he can do it. More specifically, Shinji has to kill him. Kaoru loves Shinji unconditionally. He is perfectly aware of what his life is, and he knows what he wants out of it. He loves Shinji unconditionally, and when it comes down to the choice of whether Shinji should live or he should, he forces Shinji to kill him so Shinji can live. And that perpetuated misery compounded by a person knowing exactly what they want out of life. Honestly, I think me striving to be Kaoru is probably the reason I like him so much, like, you know, subconsciously or otherwise. And just, it's a magical show because everyone everyone is real. I'm not saying that it's like everyone's real. I'm saying that I know a Rei, I know an Oscar, and I was a Shinji. So that's the reason why I like the show so much, because the writing just sings to me.
I think.
Anyway, let's move on.
I also love the show.
Just as the last thing of like, I feel like I don't like shows so much where I really like. I feel Evangelion is a show where you have to think a lot.
Alastair, I like my thinky bullshit. Unfortunately, that may be something we just disagree on.
Yeah, I don't want to think too much with my shows.
I like thinky bullshit.
I love thinky bullshit. My second favorite is Fate Zero, so we'll wrap around to me for my first later on. Let's switch back to Alastair now for his second
I
favorite.
do have one last thing to say on Evangelion.
Please do so.
Just two points. Gendo did nothing wrong, and Ramiel is best girl.
True. Moving on.
Well, it's also impossible to find anyway, so you would think.
So you can access Neon Genesis Evangelion via
By paying out the arse.
via my Kingston 8GB hard drive, which is open to anyone who wants it. Just send me your address and a $2 for postage and packaging, and I'll be able to send it your way.
Dollars.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's how the postage system trades, apart from cigarettes up the asshole, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so my
Bloody
number
filth.
2, which was my number 1 up until recently.
Upset.
Whoa! Someone changed. What's this, Alistair?
No, I didn't. No, you already know what the change is, but it was number 1 until I watched the show that is now number 1.
It was more of a meme because I change every 10 seconds.
Oh, right. Right. So my
Is it?
my number 2 show is Assassination Classroom. This is probably higher up
class.
than it should be, but
I unfortunately agree.
but there's so much about it that I like, especially in the second season. It's what it is. Just for a description of what it is, it's a story about a classroom of underdogs, basically the most underachieving class in a school. They're basically shoved up a mountain to basically because the school doesn't want to deal with them. They're like the lowest of the low, and they're just like, you have no future. Just go and do your thing up the mountain and be alone. Then comes along this interesting teacher who is this weird yellow tentacle monster person who turns out to be the best teacher on the planet, and also comes with the ultimatum of, in a year, I'm going to blow up the Earth. You're going to have to kill me to stop it. So there's the two sides of the story of them, the entire class of children, trying to assassinate their teacher, but also at the same time trying to do well at school and trying to improve their grades. And also discovering that they're not the worst of the worst and the lowest of the low. They can actually also contribute to society and whatsoever. Like I said before, I like underdog stories. This is literally a classroom of underdogs. The characters are great. Koro Sensei is one of my favorite characters of all time. He's hilarious. He's probably one of the best teachers I've ever seen in.
Boy.
Sorry, Lewis.
No worries.
I haven't seen your teaching, so I don't know.
It's pretty fucking good, Alastair! Sorry. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, and the one thing that it also has, it has one of the most satisfying conclusions, even though it may be a bit emotional, but the ending is just perfect to the whole show, and an ending for me makes a show. And it's... I just enjoy it, and I love watching it over and over and over again, and I don't really know what much else to say about it.
Nope, that's fair enough. I like Assassination Classroom.
Then
It's also really funny.
I like that show.
No, I think it's. I'm definitely in. Yeah, well, I think were you about to say it's funny?
Yes.
Yeah, good, because I'm in it for the comedy, honestly. The characters are a little bit boring, but the gags actually got to me a fair bit, which is kind of rare in an anime. I think Tanaka-kun's probably my funniest anime I've ever seen, but like Assassination Classroom's definitely up there. I like the gags that they pull in it.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I enjoy the teaching humor, even if I'm the only one who really got it at Anime Sock. I like Horror Sensei's crappy teacher humor. Believe me when I say you have to be a physics teacher to understand how crap his humor is. It's a lovely show though, very well structured. The writing is what elevates it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do say that like the first season it starts off a bit slow and is a bit episodic, but once it gets into the meat of the show, and especially in the second season when you get into more of like Coruscant's background and all of the like actual like character development, it's very good. Like the second season I would give a 10. The first season I wouldn't. The first season I'd give it a 9 because it's just a bit it's episodic at the start, but
I think therein lies my issue of I've only seen season 1, so I was like, but if you say the second season makes it better, it might be worth looking at then.
I dare
has
say
the emotional impact.
yeah.
I dare say that any show which opens with the premise of at the end of this, I will tell you everything and you will finish me. I think the ending will probably make that show. I think that we're maybe not be as qualified to talk about this one with Alastair, but honestly, if the second season is as good as the first one, I think I say wonderful little show. It didn't leave any lasting impact on me, but it's definitely one of those, oh yeah, that was fun, I'd watch that again type of shows.
I mean, the other thing that's nice about it is it's also, because it's 2 seasons, the first season's 22 episodes, the second season's 25 episodes, it's a nice just below 50 number of like, oh, it's quite a nice size to like you have enough like material to like digest, but it's not too big as like, oh, this is an impossible mountain to climb for me to watch this.
I remember back in my day when a series was 24 episodes and you could have 2 Clannad series for 48 episodes. I remember.
And 50 if you count the 2 OVAs.
Man, those OVAs are so good. Anyway, Assassination Classroom is actually pretty good. No, that's a good pick. I approve, Alastair. I approve.
Thank you.
Make sure I don't judge your first one too harshly.
Oh, Metadota.
Yeah, so you can watch it, the sub on Crunchyroll, and the dub's available on Funimation, and it's also a very good dub.
Cool. Benny boy.
Oh no, Ben's number 2. Ben's number 2 that he already knows Lewis is going to have choice words over.
Here we go.
Right. My number 2 is Made in Abyss.
Yeah, I have choice words.
I fucking love this show. This show is one that I loved so much that I rewatched 3 times in 1 week once I first saw it. And
Bondrew did nothing wrong.
Bondrew did nothing wrong. Best Dad TM continues. Just get that Best Dad mug in there. Like, I wish could share that. Yeah. So essentially, it's a show based. It's set in a city that is built around a huge hole on that was just found by humans on an island, and this hole just seems to infinitely go down to the point that human curiosity in one of my favorite lines of the fucking show, the fear of death was only outweighed by humans' insatiable curiosity, as they would just throw their lives down to see what's in the fucking abyss. Like,
what's in the hole?
And so so an entire city was made around this as to delving in and discovering what's down in the abyss. And the story is based around a girl called Rico, who is a young girl in an orphanage, whose mother was one of the great famous white whistles, which are the like greatest abyss explorers that you can possibly get. And she one day went down into the abyss to find the bottom. She wanted to see what was at the bottom, and she never came back. And so Riku wants to go and find her mum. And one day she finds a android sort of boy who has robotic arms and these giant laser blaster hand thing, but that causes him to pass out after he uses it. And together they set off down into the abyss to try and reach the bottom and find her mum. However, the abyss is not a nice place, and going down in the abyss is fine, but when you head back up, you hit the curse of the abyss, which is worse the further down you go. So at the first layer, you just start feeling queasy and sick. At the second layer, you start hallucinating and throwing up fully. In the third layer, you begin passing out, having absolutely severe hallucinations of like being in an entirely different place. Then in the fourth layer, you bleed from every orifice possible. And then the fifth layer, you mutate. And then the sixth layer, you die. And no one knows any further. And
This is the one that's the Amazon one, yeah? The Amazon
yes, this is the
Prime.
Amazon one. Yeah. Amazon Prime, made in Abyss. Woo.
But it's
yeah,
only US Amazon Prime, by the way.
It is only US Amazon Prime. And so they just head down into the abyss with essentially this 12-year-old girl and this robotic boy head down into the abyss to find her mum, and with literally zero intention of ever returning, because there's no fucking way a 12-year-old's going to be able to survive coming back up. And so they just go down to find her mum, and that's basically the basis of the entire story. As they head down, meet a shit ton of characters, have a ton of backstories, and all the revelations are told. The world building is fucking astounding. The soundtrack and score to the entire thing is brilliant and done by some Australian
So I shared it with a
guy.
mate.
Yeah.
A friend.
Yeah, there was a great bit where he's talking to a fellow composer, and he's like, "So I came here with a mate," and he's like, "A what?" And he's like, "I came here with a friend."
No. That doesn't go as a friend.
Yeah.
As he clearly searches for what the word mate means.
And he's just this fucking Australian composer who does a fantastic job. The score for the entire thing is breathtaking, and it just builds up the world and the characters up so well and gets you invested in every little bit, or me at the very least, invested in every part of it, where you just want to know more, and it just throws so many things. Every character is complex. They're an actual complex person. They're not two-dimensional. They're not just the tsundere. They're not just the anime stereotype protagonist. Every one of them has their own reasons, their own drives, their own things that keep them going, and their own motivations. And you get to explore these and see these for each of the characters. Like, there's one scene where, spoilers slightly ahead, they meet another one of the White Whistles called Ozen, who is this incredibly giant, strong woman who is ridiculously powerful, and she proceeds to seem uncaring and to give no shits about any of them, and pretty much beats them within an inch of their life at one point in like just this huge battle where you just can't hope to win against her. And you're just like, shit, this woman's evil, she's the villain, like beat her. It turns out she's a horrible person. But no, she has her own motivations for doing that. She was testing to see, like, if you can't beat her, you're never going to survive going down in the abyss. And so she has her own motivations, and those motivations stem from like her own relationship with the mother of the main character. And you then get to see that, and like the little promises that they made to each other in the past, and seeing these characters open up, and the fact that they actually care and have. Everyone's just so personable and relatable, and every character is brilliantly written, and the world is just fantastic to explore. And there's also Best Dad Bondrud, who is a fabulously written person. I would say
villain, yeah.
I would say villain. However,
but he's not. He's not.
He's not a villain. He's not a villain. In no way is he doing anything for evil. What he's doing is evil, but it's in no way for evil means. And he,
oh, go on.
Like it's just so intricately done, and such an interesting world and story that just pulls me in every time I watch it, to the point that I could just watch it over and over again.
It does amuse me that you said that you thought I'd rip the shit out of this. I mean, the main character is a walking abortion. What's not to love? Like,
that is true.
I mean, that and a ditto gets microwaved. That was fucking great.
For fuck's sake.
But no,
Lewis,
right
the
now,
emotionless man.
I don't go emotional. I'd argue I was emotionful, Ben. No, I like Main Abyss. It makes a very valiant attempt, honestly. It tries to do Misery, and it does a good attempt. It does a good attempt. I love the world. I love the soundtrack. I completely agree with Benham with that. I love the enemies, air quotes, the creatures that inhabit the abyss. I love the orb piercer. I think that's one of my favorite fucking creatures ever made. Honestly,
Oh, the is great.
there's that. And what are the flying motherfuckers that imitate the sounds of
Oh,
dead travelers?
the corpse.
Corpse singers or whatever they are. Anyway,
Yeah. something like
the I like those. No, honestly,
corpse
my
weavers.
my only real complaint about the series is the fact that the last third of the first season is spent entirely with this one bunny motherfucker. And like every time the episode cut back to her, I was like, Jesus, I want to see more of this fucking abyss that you've built up, and it looks miserable. And it's great. And my only real complaint about it is the fact that you spend so much time hanging out with the fucking bunny girl and her ditto abortion, like, which just kind of like.
Oh man, for anyone that has seen Made in Abyss, I can only imagine they are either breaking down laughing or fuming at your fucking description.
Oh, I don't give a shit, man. No. Problem is, they spend 4 episodes of those characters, which is fine because you're introducing the bunny girl as, spoilers in 3, 2, 1, a permanent companion with the group. I am genuinely reserving my entire judgment of Made in Abyss for the second season, because I need to see more of this abyss before I can make a judgment. And that's only ever a good thing. When I'm sat there going, I need to see more, that is always a good sentence compared to, and I'm good. You know, I like Made in Abyss.
I have read the manga. Like, I'm up to date on the manga, and I can say that you will very much like the stuff that is to come.
Yeah, it's fine. The composition is great. The writing is frankly mediocre, but it doesn't need to be good because the world and the characters carry everything. And that's fine. I'm just looking forward to seeing more of it, which is as good a review as I'm going to give to something that's not finished.
Is there a second season announced, by the way?
I don't know.
I don't know, but they'd be foolish not to, basically.
They would be incredibly foolish not to.
If they don't release a second season, I'll read the manga, basically. But I am very optimistic about the series. As I say, they make a very valiant attempt at misery, which is something which a lot of people learn. That and the Abyss feels dangerous. I like that.
Oh yeah, well, there's that one scene in which they literally just escape from an enemy, and it practically fucks everything.
Well, yeah, because but the Abyss feels dangerous, and I like how it feels dangerous. I worry that we'll run out of momentum without the death of a party member at some point. Honestly, I think the obvious conclusion for me is that the wee girl dies at some point, and then the boy has to continue the quest and question her mother as to why it was so important that she die for her.
Yeah.
That's if I was writing it, of course. Then again, I'm a fucking sadist, so I'll let other people talk about this now.
By the way, just so you know, there is a second season confirmed.
Oh, really? Excellent.
Yeah. Nice. I'm happy with that.
No, it's something I'll look into. I'd seen good reviews about it, and it was obviously in the Anime Awards of the year, wasn't it? It was very popular, but it's something I haven't got Amazon to see it. Yeah.
I definitely watch it, and it's one of the few things which I'd say that you cannot judge within the first 3 episodes, which is a rare thing that I will allow for. But you really cannot judge its tone until they make it to the second layer of the Abyss.
Yeah.
After that, you'll know whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a show that I have been meaning to watch. The only thing that, of course, has stopped me from watching it is because there's nowhere legal to watch it in the UK.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Ben and I bought the DVDs and we watched them in our home cinema.
The DVDs don't exist yet.
We flicked the manga very quickly in front of our screen and hummed the soundtrack as to imitate the animation. No, I definitely would. I would absolutely recommend Made in Abyss. I would absolutely recommend it.
Yeah.
And I believe Dio is Bondrude, which just makes me love him more.
I think Dio is Bondrude, yes. Bondrude
Bondrude
is fucking brilliant. Ozen is fucking... All of the white whistles are just fucking brilliant.
Oh that is one thing which I do appreciate, which is it's very few and far between with its overpowered characters. It's call it a weird comparison. I like Attack on Titan a lot. actually. And I would definitely compare the White Whistles with your Captain Levi style characters, where the only reason that they are alive is because they're as competent as they are, which means that all the competent characters are like half a dozen people who are ridiculously competent.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a limited number of the White Whistles, and each of them, to have earned that rank, have to
Yeah.
have done something great or have something fucking
But no,
great
you
that has
could
proved them to that.
you could do significantly worse than Made in Abyss if you're looking for a new series to watch.
Cool.
Fallon, I believe.
Yeah, Fallon with.
Now, my second was Fate Zero, which obviously we've had to talk about. So, do I go into my first one, or do we
Same.
continue
I imagine-
around?
We'll just
Go-
continue
Go,
round then.
go.
Yeah.
If we're continuing around,
then
then
I know.
yeah.
Oh
Okay,
no, because
well
if we're
then-
skipping, we're just on first anyway, so you may as well do your first.
That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say.
Okay.
You may as well do it because my second was also Phase Zero. So.
Okay, so we'll
Hey,
do our first.
I have
then.
a feeling that this might also be Lewis's, given his emotional talk about it at Anime early this year. Kekai Sensen.
Oh shit!
Lewis
Oh,
forgot about it. Lewis
You
forgot about
said a good thing for me, Fallon. You got me good. Oh shit! Go on. Explain.
I mean, you can also go on, because I knew that it'd be on your list somewhere.
It's not is the depressing thing. But
It's
please
not.
go on.
No,
it's not.
I love it.
It also contested my fifth and fourth position. Right, for reference, my top three are immutable. My fourth and fifth change all the time. Keiko Sensen was my number 4 for a long time. But please go on, and I will absolutely add saliva to the
Definitely add in.
pile.
I should
that is required
mention
for
it's
it.
Blood Blockade Battlefront. I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is Blood Blockade
Yes.
Battlefront. Anyway, go on, Fallon. You go first.
Okay, so the main character is Leonardo Watch. His full-time hobby is photography. Just to add that in. And when out with his sister, who is paralyzed in a wheelchair, he is gifted or more or less cursed with these all-seeing eyes of God. Now, we should go into the fact that New York City is no longer New York City, but Hellsom's Lot. Earth has joined with what is known as the Beyond, and creatures, very alien-looking creatures, now live alongside humanity, but only in New York City. Humanity doesn't want anything to do with them, so they're sort of bridged in, walled in there, to keep them away from the rest of the population. Now, when Leonardo is gifted with these all-seeing eyes, the price is his sister's sight, which he doesn't believe is acceptable. So he's gone to the old New York City to try and find some way of getting his sister's eyesight back. So the story is he manages to find the secret organization Libra, who he hopes are going to help him find some way to get either rid of his problem or get his sister's eyes back. Louis, you've probably got loads to add to this.
I mean, you're perfectly fine with that. Hellsom's Law exists. Libra is a massively weeby organization to protect humanity's interests, and essentially the series turns quite episodic quite quickly as Leonardo Watch helps with his. I've got a lot to say about it, so I don't want to steal any of Fallon's thunder. But basically, it turns very episodic very quickly as essentially the series revolves around them countering the machinations of I think it's Fempt, who is the king of depravity, and the king in blue, who is the other main antagonist of the series. Fallon, you may as well explain what you like about it, because I certainly could do for a while.
It's okay. I had lost audio there. I'm back now.
That's fine. Well,
I'm going in and out slowly.
Explain what you like about it.
Obviously, the soundtrack is amazing. It's got such a diverse soundtrack to it. You have like these lovely piano things to then go into hip hop like a couple of minutes later. The soundtrack and the art style is amazing. Although I have to say, the art style, Leonardo has these magical glowing blue eyes, which he never actually has open for the most of it. I don't know how he sees through closed eyelids.
That's how powerful the. Sorry, this is where I'm going to go full fanboy now. Like, I'm sorry, but no. Oh.
No, I loved it. I love the characters. I love they slowly introduce more, and obviously there's a second season. You get more character development in the second season, knowing their backstories and stuff like that. I just loved it.
Yeah, there is that great. In episode 2, there was in season 2, there's an episode where Zap ends up getting a curse on his dick, and he has to retrieve. He has to retrieve an object or his cock will be lost forever, and it is the most frantic you will ever see a character in all of anime, as he desperately tries to find this item in time. Right.
I know
Yeah.
people have issues with it, that it is episodic, but it also seems very sporadic in the storyline. Like, sometimes it will be very focusing on this bad guy, and other times it's just random alien invasion has happened. We need to solve this.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'll add to that then. Basically, the reason I like the series so much is, as Fallon said, it's episodic, but it's also sporadic. The world of of Hell Salem's Lot in New York is mental. Something is always happening. The first episode establishes this when the main character literally gets hit by a rocket launcher strike on the way to work. It's primarily a comedy, honestly. It's weeby as fuck, but like everyone uses their powers relatively sparingly, so it always feels as though the powers are special. And pretty much it's just an exploration of the crazy fucking world of Hell Salem's Lot, where something is always happening. My favorite character by far in the series is a vampire hunter called Abram. And he has been cursed with eternal misfortune by vampires because he is the foremost expert on vampires in the world. But at the same time, he is naturally the most lucky person in the universe, which means misfortune befalls everyone around him, but he magically dodges it every time, and he is completely unaware that this is a plane crashes he just gets off of, a giant intergalactic monstrosity gets taken out by a meteor strike right before it kills him, and shit like that. It's a mental series, but that's where a lot of the charm of it lays, where in between all of the mental bits, you've got Leonardo Watch, who has got no idea what the fuck is going on. He is absolutely clueless. He's got the best superpower ever in the all-seeing eyes of God, which allow him to see into the past, future, and anywhere in the world, basically, and he can sense true intentions, all of that good shit. But he still is eternally lost in the world of Hell Salem's Lot, and his singular driving objective of cure my sister's blindness is the one anchor of the series which keeps you sane as much as it keeps Leonardo sane. And
there'll be all this random stuff going on, but you know it's got to link back to that at some point. You just don't know when.
Yeah, that is his stated objective for the entire show, is I want to help my sister. That is all he not thinks about per se, but that is all his objectives lean toward. Ben and Alastair, have you guys seen and/or give two shits about?
All I've seen is what we've seen in anime. And my first look at it is, one, I just came out of it completely confused after what I think we watched 3 episodes. I was confused as hell as to what was going on. I didn't understand anything. Also, I did find it episodic, but that's not necessarily a bad thing depending on how the show does it. Like, if it's a show that's meant to be episodic, it's not a problem whatsoever. I think it's something where if I wanted to, I would probably have to rewatch it from the start again. I would probably have to watch it dubbed, just because there's so much going on screen.
Oh, I love the dub. Genuinely.
No, the dub is very well done.
I think
because
it's just
to begin with.
The genuine big takeaway of the series is the voice actor for Femto, who I unfortunately don't know, and J. Manning Tatum, who voices one of the main characters of Stephen A. Starface, and he is an eternally great voice actor in the role.
It's because I would have to watch it dubbed, just because the fact there's so much going on screen that I wouldn't be able to look at all of that and read subtitles. So
sorry, J. Michael Tatum. My bad.
So, but yeah, I can't say much about it because I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so I don't. But that's my first impressions of it anyway.
It's got, in my opinion, the best ED of any anime ever.
I was about to mention that. I was literally waiting.
Oh my god!
Literally the exact thing I was going to say when it got round was I was just going to go, I like the show. It reminds me of Noragami and Bungo Stray Dogs in feel, and it had the first season has the best ending.
The first season's got the best ending of any anime ever, in the sense of the end credits rolling to them fucking dancing along to fucking what's the name of it? Fucking Bitter Song to Sweet Step or something like that. Anyway,
Well,
Sugar Song to Bitter Step. That's the one.
I know the sub's available on Crunchyroll and the dub is available on Funimation. If anybody's interested.
No, but the dub, if I know it is especially confusing, especially when they do like the news broadcast as an opening to it, and you've obviously got subs
Right,
top
Mr.
of what's on the
Guabanga.
background.
Yeah.
There's just subs everywhere, so I can understand why the subs gets very confusing for people.
Yeah. I feel I've talked a fair bit there. Alistair, Ben, do you guys want to do your number 2s first before I spiel my number 1, which
I've
might
done
take
my
a
we've
while?
number
we've
two.
all done our number 2s. We've just got number 1s
Uh,
left.
Ben, do you want to take yours first then? Because I need to prep mine because it's a lot to think about.
Oh, for fuck's sake! All right.
I'm sorry. I'm yet to find a way to describe my number 1 well.
I can explain it in literally
No!
3 words.
No! I refuse. Kono Kotawaru, Ben.
Okay,
You
Ben, go ahead.
What's your number 1?
All right. Well, my number 1 is a bit of a nostalgia trip for me, as much as
I know
a
what's
great
coming
show. I'd like to put Hina Matsuri up here, but someone won't let me put shows that are currently airing.
Because you've only seen like 6 or 7 episodes of it.
He's not wrong, Ben. He's not wrong.
I know. But my number 1 is Gunslinger Girls. Most notably the first season, or the manga. The second season, I've heard mixed things about. Never actually seen, and I think Lewis can very much appreciate that.
Oh boy, can I think
Um,
I trump that particular one. But anyway, so go on
Yeah.
about Italian girls killing each other.
So essentially, Gunslinger Girls is a show about a group of girls in Italy, based where the Italian government essentially pick up these girls who have nothing left or practically dying or orphaned in some way, and they pick them up to give them a life and train them as assassins, basically. Government tools to go and kill people as they see fit. Each one of these girls is given a handler who is a grown man that will look after them and train them and teach them everything, usually with some military or police background to be able to train them and such. And the girls are given some slight augmentation to help them, like if they're totally injured and stuff, which is the only bit of kind of expending disbelief in the entire show. Otherwise, the whole thing is very heavily grounded down in realism, like from the actual characterization and the relationships between everyone to the way that fights are done in the show, the way that all of the characters carry themselves and act.
We keep coming back to that air quotes realism, don't we?
I like it in my shows. And sorry, Kate came in and started like doing weird hand gestures about food.
Speaking of Mato Schmullivan, I believe
Yeah.
it made someone cry, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It did make Kate cry. Pretty much, the show explores many things, like the relationships between the girls and their handlers, and the way that these girls that have been trained to be assassins and kill people are still just like children. Like when it comes down to it, they want to hang out and have fun and be with each other and play and be kids. And then suddenly the time calls and they go and they kill people. And the toll that that has on these kids, the way that each of them deal with it, and the way that each of the handlers deal with the fact that they are responsible for this. Like, you get a mixture of handlers that genuinely care for the girls and will treat them like their own daughters, to others that will just treat them like killing machines because it's the only way they can cope with sending these kids out to do such horrible things. And every character in it is genuinely just feels like a real person, and every emotion and interaction that goes throughout feels like a genuine thing that people would have in these situations. Like, everyone acts the way you'd expect, and it really just goes down the route of what would happen if these kids were just made to live this life, were brainwashed to be these assassins, and their only parental figures were their handlers. And how do these handlers deal with this? How do they interact with them? And every single character has their own story and their own thing going on that you get to explore and you get to see, and brings them all to life. And the ending to the first season of the show, I honestly think, is the most perfect ending to a season of anything I've ever seen, in which I will spoilers here because I do genuinely just want to express this. Spoilers ahead. It does just end in most of the girls sat on a hill enjoying looking at a meteor shower while singing fucking Beethoven's Ninth Symphony out loud to each other, as one of the jaded to fuck handlers who used to really care about his kid until he realized they're just weapons and they're going to die and keep getting hurt, and it's better to be not emotionally attached anymore. Pretty much finally goes back to her as she's essentially dying after her last mission. And just the contrast of these kids getting to be kids and this handler finally realizing that they're actually real people and they should be treated as such and not like these machines and things or these government tools. It's just such a beautiful scene in the end. And I cannot think of a better thematic ending to any other show in my head. Granted, this was one of the first anime I ever watched, and I watched it alongside my dad when I was younger, and so it does have a lot of, just nostalgia
Phil
kicks for me.
Pride!
A lot of nostalgia kicks for me. That,
I understand the nostalgic kicks.
And so it's probably not as good how... well, I'd say that, and yet I showed it to Kate, and Kate loved the thing and genuinely cried at it. And
she cried.
It's... Oh, of course. And then it's a really, really good show that I would say just watch, because it's beautiful, and it's so... It's like I come back to it's just so... Like the interactions and the things that end up happening, the conclusions, everything that does, like there's another one I'd talk about, but I don't want to go into spoilers too much as I've already mentioned the ending bit, but there's like the ways that the handlers treat the girls and stuff, and the impacts of such, and the conclusions that come from certain things that certain people do are just so real. Like, it all makes sense. Like, genuinely, it's just a brilliant show, and I would recommend it to anyone that wants to get into anime. I would say just watch it, because it's honestly, in my head, it's fantastic.
Good.
I think the realism and the attention to detail are some of the biggest selling points for Gunslinger Girl, isn't it? Like they take the guns apart at one point, and it's like literally piece by piece. There's so much detail in it.
The detail of them actually having every intricate part of the gun that they're having to piece together and stuff in it. And
there's so much detail in it.
Have you seen it, Fallon?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the one I was referring to is like when it makes sense is the I forgot her name, but the blonde girl with the handler that's like super cold, doesn't care about her, and the ending that comes to those two is just very very thematic and appropriate as to that is what would have probably happened.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've only seen
it's realism is...
No, what? I've only ever seen the first episode of Gunslinger Girls, or Girl.
Samesies.
What I took away from it is it looked interesting, and I do want to watch more. And I like the fact that the girl had a P90.
P90 in a violin case.
Yeah, I like P90s.
P90.
I like P90s.
What do you like about P90s?
Because it's the weapon that they use in Stargate SG-1. That's why.
Fuck's sake. The real answer was because they're ambidextrous bullpup weapons. That's very impressive. No.
Man, That first episode does have such a really well done fight scene as well, in which literally a guy puts the hand on one of the handlers, the girl's like, no, protect him, smacks him with the fucking violin case, and then P90s the room, at which point one guy staggers, taking out the blinds, which then allows the sniper to shoot some of the others.
See, the thing that I really like about it is when she takes that one bullet wound, and it just, like, the weight of that shot gets carried. Gunslinger Girl is rad as fuck. Like, depressingly, despite the fact that it's an assassination show, when I first saw it, it seemed like such a quiet show, which I enjoyed a lot. There's a lot
It is.
There's a lot of airtime where no one talks, which takes balls from a writing perspective. It takes considerable testicles to write a show where characters will say nothing, which says more than any dialogue ever could. I still need to get around to watching the entire thing, honestly, but Ben's opinion is usually a good one, if nothing else. And yeah, honestly, it's weight when it needs to be, but otherwise is silent for the rest of it, because it doesn't need to say anymore.
It knows when it needs to say something, and it knows when the scene and what's happening is impact enough.
Yeah, quite.
Alright.
Well, that's a fine number one pick, Benny boy.
It's available on Netflix, I know that.
It's on, both seasons are on Netflix.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend watch season 1 and either leave it there because that ending is just perfect, or read the
advice will receive twice in this fucking
or read the manga if you genuinely want to get to a conclusion, because the second season does not conclude everything. So if you want a general conclusion after the first, if you watch the first season, ending's perfect. If that's not good enough for you, read the manga. Just read the manga.
Okay.
Excellent.
Who want? Do you
want
to go next or me?
No, you go right ahead, Alastair.
Okay, this probably won't take long, considering I'm the only person who's seen this thing. My number one show is a show called Space Battleship Yamato, 2199, specifically that version, because there is an old version of the same show that came out in the 70s, and this is essentially a remake of that show, but it's not a straight remake. They've updated it for modern times, basically. It's the same story, but they've updated it. The story essentially revolves around Earth in the future has come into contact with an alien race. The alien race then basically gave them an ultimatum of, you either join our Federation of Planets or be destroyed. The Earth chose to fight, and basically after a really long war, the Earth is now obliterated to the point where they can't live on the surface anymore. It's literally a dead rock, almost like Mars. So they all live underground in underground cities, and this can't go on. They're basically they assume they're gonna die out within, it takes about a year for them to probably die out at that point. So they had to come up with a plan. Luckily, another alien race sent them a messenger saying, look, if you can make it to our home world, we will give you essentially a device that will re-terraform the Earth and bring it back to what it once was. The only catch is you have to make it to us, but we will give you what is essentially a hyperdrive to put onto one of your ships, so you can build a ship that would be able to make the distance. And it's a story about that ship making that 1-year journey there and back to that planet in order to save the human race. It's a really good show that encompasses the different aspects of that, of the life on board a ship, what would happen if you just had one crew of people who were stuck on a ship for a year. There's some really great space battles in it. The music's great. The character's great. The character interactions are great. And you also see a lot about the politics of both sides, especially the alien race side of... You get to see also lives of normal people from the alien race, so you kind of understand their perspective as well of what goes on behind the scenes. They're not just oh, these are just the blank alien enemies that we have to kill. No, they are also real people with real lives and real problems. It's a really fun space opera type show. If you like science fiction, you'll like this show. I don't really know much to say about it apart from the fact it is very different to a lot of shows that I like. It seems to be the most different of the shows, but I just loved it from the moment I started watching it.
I think you put it quite aptly yourself when earlier you said you don't like shows that you have to think about as much, and this show you just described as one that pretty much you have to think about a bit, and yet you love it.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I think it also is a bit of a nostalgia trip of the fact that the first show that I ever watched in anime...
Man, we got a lot of those biases going on in here, haven't we?
is kind of a similar thing of, like, it's space. It's one ship that's more powerful than the others, having to go out and do things. It's the same. It's a similar kind of thing. The only difference is this Space Battleship Yamato doesn't have mechs, which is one thing it's got going for it, because a lot of sci-fi anime has mechs in it. Also, this isn't a harem show, is the other thing. It has multiple love. There's a bunch of different romances, so it's not just like one guy who has a bunch of girls around him. No, it's one guy that has maybe two girls, and then there's another guy who has another girl, and then there's another girl who has a like it's multiple romances on the same ship.
You're saying it's NTR?
What? It's not NTR. There's no NTR in it.
What the fuck is NTR again?
Not safe for work. No.
What the fuck is NTR? I can't remember the
It's when
anyway.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later when you're old enough.
Sure.
I mean, we can't really have much of a discussion about the show because none of you have seen it.
Yeah, but Alastair, I do have one question about the plot point which you just explained. So basically, there's this alien race that have said, if you come to us, we'll give you something to fix it, right?
Yeah.
You said if they can make it to us, we'll give you whatever you want, whatever you need to fix the Earth. And then they even give them like a hyperdrive in order to get to them.
Yeah. So you're asking why don't they just give them the thing?
But they don't just give them the thing.
There are two reasons for that. One, I can't say because of plot. Two is because what it is a test. They're testing them to see whether they're worthy of accepting this higher form of technology.
Oh god, no! It's space Nazis.
That just seemed like a glaring, obvious plot point.
No, but there is a reason. There is a reason why they have to do it. There's two reasons why they have to do it. One of them is because it's a test, and the other one I can't reveal without spoilers.
Space Nazis, right?
No, that's nothing. I mean, yes, the main alien race, the Gamilas, are based off, it's based off the Second World War. Yeah, okay. But
man, it all comes back to Nazis. Fallon was right.
But
it's a show from the 70s. Of course, it's going to reference that.
Everything made in the 70s is basically Nazi. You know.
I did know.
But yeah, no, it's
very good.
If people actually know it by the other name that it goes by is because the original translation of the old show changed the name and actually changed names of characters, which is weird. The original show was called Star Blazers over in the West. If people know it by that name.
Wait, is that the one with fucking Captain Harlock?
It's the one where you said, "Oh, that's Captain Birdseye."
No. I know I called one of the characters Captain Birdseye, but I swear Star Blazers, the original, had Captain Harlock in it.
Possibly, I don't know, because the new version uses the Japanese names. It doesn't use the...
I'm gonna check.
Because, for example, the main girl, Yukimori, in the original version in the West is called Nova or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's a very good show.
It was Captain Harlock!
Fair enough. And where can people watch this, Alastair?
So unfortunately in the UK you can only get it in one place, and that is the dub on Funimation. The sub is on Crunchyroll, but only in the US.
Alright. It's my turn now, isn't it?
Watch it for Captain Harlock.
Yeah.
Right. I will do my best. My favorite anime of all time is Darker Than Black Season 1, a 2007 anime. I have never met anyone else who has liked Darker Than Black as much as I have, and consequently me explaining it's quite difficult. The cheap and easy way is to say Chinese Electric Batman. I'm neither cheap nor easy.
Oh,
So-
sexy. That makes all
I
of it.
know, right? Sexy. Right.
Shabba-da-doo.
I will explain Darker Than Black's plot as best I can, then I'll explain why I like it. The two of them are separate things. Stars in the sky change one day, contractors appear. Contractors have got a superpower, but critically are psychotic. They don't feel emotions. They are exploited for all their worth by intelligence agencies as the world basically tries to figure out what the fuck is up with the gates. A gate, two of them appeared, are on opposite sides of the world, one in Argentina and one in Tokyo, and beyond which is fuckery. And that's part of what makes the series so good. The gates are never explained. What is beyond them, never really explored. It's shown twice what is actually in a gate. All that you know is that bad shit is in there. And it brings me back to Violet or Evergarden earlier, where the gates are discussed as this fantastic and terrifying thing that no one really talks about. The early days of contractors appearing is something which is horrible in most people's memories, and contractors are feared, and their existence is wiped out of most people's memories with gate technology. And those who try to understand the gates often go mad in a cosmic horror type sense. The actual story is about one of these contractors called Hei, aka BK201, aka Li Shengsheng, who works for the Syndicate, which is a syndicate who wants to advance their own interests. Hei is my favorite character, I'll say. He's after his sister, Pai, who was lost during the first contractor conflicts, and he desperately tries to find her. And as the series goes on, you basically discover what it means to be human. Basically, you know what we were discussing earlier about what it actually means to be a hero in My Hero Academia. Darker Than Black discusses what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to feel? What does it mean to be a person? The contractors don't feel anything. But they do as the series goes on. As the series goes on, you discover fan favorite November 11, who is very particular about the way he does things. You discover Havoc, who refuses her contract because of his horrific price. And then you discover Hay, who, spoilers in 3, 2, 1, is not a contractor at all. He's human, and he has been the entire time, and he's had to endure horrors at his own hand as he has killed hundreds of people in an effort to find his sister, and he just can't take it anymore. He hates contractors and he hates himself, and he desperately wants an answer which will satisfy everyone. And he does the best thing at the end of the entire series, which is he takes the middle route. He's indecisive. He doesn't know the right answer, and so he picks what he thinks is best for everyone and then leaves. And at the end of series 1, he makes the ultimate human decision, which is one which he's not sure is right, but he thinks is his best bet. The combat is awkward. The music is weirdly jazzy and out of nowhere. The writing has characters often soliloquize about the stars and other random crap for minutes at a time as shots go by. Every character in the series seems to either drink or smoke. And not a single person in the series is innocent. One of the first people you come across is a schoolgirl who accidentally burns people to death and doesn't quite understand what's happening. And you explore all these different characters, discovering what it means to be human. A lot of Darker Than Black I've likely imagined or superimposed onto it. I think it's magical, but I think a lot of that comes down to what I've imagined it's presented to me. And overall, it just presents to me the best of everything. Maybe not animation, but it presents the best of music, of writing, of characters. It's the best story I've ever seen described in front of me. And I've never seen the second season, and I never want to, because the direction went in a different way. It was a different writer, and I've been told it's crap, and Darker Than Black Season 1 ends perfectly for me, with a character who couldn't do something rather than a character who could. Darker Than Black.
The
By all
second
means,
season
Flash.
has some good story.
Oh, I agree, and maybe
Like
before
some
I
of the
die,
stuff's interesting.
I might watch some of it, but
Yeah.
the first season to me is such a perfect start, middle, finish that I don't really want to think about the second season, if that makes
Are you
sense.
telling me you don't
No,
want to think of that?
I have seen the second season, and I agree to leave it at season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it there, and
Right.
that's
No,
all it will-
I agree wholeheartedly, but there's some bits that there are some contracts, I should say, that I find interesting from the second season.
Right. I like.
Lewis has corrupted me slightly in this regard in Darker Than Black, as I see it in two very different lights.
I suppose you should explain, Ben. Or rather,
Lewis
I
has a
should explain.
D&D of which he has based quite heavily off of a lot of mechanics from Darker Than Black, such as contractors and prices being a thing in it. And so when watching and
yeah,
gates, and so when
and
watching
the themes. And,
yeah, and so when watching Darker Than Black, you can't help but have your mind wander sometimes as to, ooh, that'd be an interesting contract. I wonder how I could use that in D&D, or ooh, this would be an interesting characterization. I wonder where this would work in this.
I got so inspired by what I saw that I made a D&D campaign about it, and I've been doing D&D for 10 years now. Actually 11 now. And it's my best hobby, and I'm a very good storyteller in it, and that's one of the few things that I'll ever talk about with confidence. Darker Than Black inspired it, and 2 years ago, the writer for season 1 of Darker Than Black died, and no one gave a shit, because all he wrote was season 1 of Darker Than Black and Resident Evil movies, and I feel I'm the only person in the Western Hemisphere who actually gives a shit that he died. And I will never meet him, and I feel like I'm carrying a torch that he never knew he lit in some ways. The last episode of Darker Than Black is called "Does the Black Reaper Dream of a Darkness That Is Darker Than Black?" And that I think that explains a lot about the series of just long, unnecessary titles.
Yeah.
That just it's ballsy. It just. And I know I've used that word a lot, but it's the sheer confidence that a series presents a character discussing an overly long philosophical argument, and it turns to you and it goes, you are engaged, you are interested, you will listen to me. And I love every bit about it. I just do.
Do
It's the
Android
best thing.
post of electric memes?
Yeah, I think I love anime. I absolutely adore anime, but as we've already seen, I shit on a lot of things. Dark Than Black's my favorite thing, media ever. It's the reason why, as much as I shit on anime, I love Dark Than Black so fucking much. Yeah, if there's no other comments, really, that's about it. Honestly, I tried to elucidate myself at my best, but honestly, describing how much I enjoy this thing can be tricky even for me.
I like Darker Than Black. It is a very good show.
That's just like we should. I'm sorry. Actually, that's going to be the title of the episode, with like Ben air quotes. That's a very good show.
To be fair,
pretty good.
that probably should be the title of this, as that has been my catchphrase every about 10
For every
minutes.
show.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the top 1 to 5s, I guess. I was actually going to say, Alastair, it's been 3 hours now.
Yeah,
Do you wanna
I
leave
think
me talking
that's-
about this season till next time.
I think that's enough for this podcast. We will probably do a podcast in June at some point that will encompass this season's worth of anime.
Yeah.
I probably
I got
should be
fantastic
best to
about
leave
with
that until the
regards to
season's
that.
actually ended. Maybe at this point.
Nah.
I
Just trying to remember.
imagine the next one will probably think of some theme for.
Well, yeah, no, we'll think of a theme that's smaller than everybody going through 5 different anime.
Yeah.
Or whether it's just we spend a while talking about what we are watching
Yeah.
at the moment.
If any of you want me to shit on your opinions, please contact me personally.
Yeah, so yeah, these
Also, if you're
podcasts.
interested in contracts, send me a message. Woo.
Yeah, these podcasts will be going up on YouTube. I don't think I'm going to put them up anywhere else unless you guys have an idea of where to put them up.
We're going to put them up on Zebo.
I'll put them up on Craigslist.
I quite like that, actually. I'll put this up in Ben and I's private chat.
Anybody have any final thoughts they would like to share?
I hope I brought myself across clearly, and bear in mind that if something is mediocre, it's shit.
I like anime.
Ben likes
I
everything.
don't like anime.
Ben likes anime.
Yeah.
I don't like anime.
Anime was a mistake. Just like me.
So tune in next time for the ecchi episode. No.
Oh dear God, no.
No.
Tune in next week for Drunk Taku.
No, that will happen. We will have a drunk podcast at some point. But
I'm already like 5 ciders in, guys. Like, step up your game.
I'm 3 beers.
I think if we ever do a drunk podcast, it'll be when we're all in the same room.
Yeah.
Probably.
That way I can hit Ben whenever it's a stupid thing.
Oh no. I truly am the vampire.
Oh,
that's a reference that 3 people will get. 2 of them are you and me. Right, that's it. We're leaving now.
That's
Goodbye, anime.
Yeah, I would like to close the podcast there. Thank everybody for listening in and whatever.
Much thanks. Such.
And hope you tune in next
thanks.
time for the next podcast, whenever that will be. Probably in a month.
Goodbye, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen.
Hey.
Wow.